What's up, everybody? Derek Jonhson here, also known as Rattletrap 1776 on my other platforms. As promised, I would go live. We were scheduled to go live yesterday on Facebook, but obviously I'm directly over the target. As always, because I straight up use military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs that pair with your federal government, and there's only 4 ways that does that, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. So straight up out the gate, we have an unprecedented number of cognitive dissonance on Facebook, which is to be expected because Facebook are laggards. Facebook are typical people who are glued to their phone and got their head so far up their rear end that they can give themselves a tonsillectomy. So, you know, if you don't know me, we're going to do a little back to the basics first. I'm going to carry you through some laws and orders that set up this unique special operation by President Donald John Trump, who is a wartime commander, which comes with a very specific type of laws that are wartime powers. All right. So if you have a problem with me, you have a problem with President Donald John Trump, you have a problem with the military, you have a problem with military laws, military orders, military regulations, military publications, military strategies, military tactics, military customs, and military regulations. All right. So a lot of you prove you have no listening skills. You don't know terminology, you don't listen, you don't shut up long enough, you just want to comment, you just want to be seen, you want your opinion heard, you get lost in the shuffle on all the other Fox News and all these other mainstream, so you come over to my page and you look like a moron. And I'm not going to mince any words for you. I care about you, but I am a veteran, retired veteran, who is acting from the personality of a retired veteran. Quick reminder, my pages are not monetized. I don't make money on my videos. I can't make money on my videos because Facebook, they ban me a lot. They shadow ban. They also remove a lot of posts because it's all straight up laws and orders. How can I be banned from showing you a military, government, and military website and government website and how they work together? Go figure on that. All right, straightup.gov, straightup.mil sites. I don't use .nets, .orgs. If we use an org on this page, then it's something that the military had already used that they use in one of their write-ups or articles. See how that works? I have never seen the level of disrespect for the United States military as I have over this course of the last 9 years. You say you love President Donald John Trump, you say you love the military, but if you bash me, you trash me, and you come on my page and you say I'm crazy and all these other, you have zero respect for the United States military, special operations, things you don't know about. Just because you think you've lived 40, 50, 60, 70 years, you know nothing about, and you prove it in the comment boxes. And I'm not going to butter your little asses up and make you walk away thinking it's okay to walk away like that. All right. You also prove you don't listen to your boy that you've been taken up for. I have nothing against Charlie Kirk. Nothing against him. All right. But the same thing he talked about, freedom of speech and how it welcomes a new fun environment and disagreements actually move us forward, you people taken up for him don't even practice what he preached. You come over here and call me crazy and call me all kinds of stuff, and you don't even look at what's been given to you on the platter. So why in the hell are you even on my page? Just leave. Real simple. Don't let the good Lord hit you in the back where he split you. All right? Because all I do is walk with the Lord. All right? I don't preach God all the time, but I show you straight up what you need to know. How you remove your emotions and your feelings, and you look at what's working with the military and the government in a special operation. It's strategic and special by laws and orders. And you sit and you listen to a man that you claim you love and support. You claim you love and support the man. How else is he working? Is he working with laws and orders, or is he not? Is he waking up every morning and firing off at the hip? What is he doing? The man says in every speech we're a nation of what? Laws and orders. And there just happens to be a military strategy and a military tactic with a bunch of layers from the days of old that the military is using on our own nation. It is biblical. It is monumental, it is historical. And why you wouldn't want to know about it, that is the very reason that makes this man so very special. He put this on his ball cap. I didn't do this. Go look at President Trump's ball caps daily, weekly, monthly since he put this on here April the 2nd, 2023. Get your heads out of your asses. If you love this man, you have to know what this means. This is a special operation. My grandfather served from 43 to 45 in the United States Army during one of the most popular puppet governments and government in exiles in World War II history, but in world history. Every man that is qualified to talk about the puppet governments and government exiles are either in a graveyard or they're anywhere from 97 years old to 107 years old, and they're probably not coherent enough to talk to you about this. Thank God I listened to my grandfather and I didn't kick the elders out of my family like a lot of you have. A lot of you don't even sit and talk to your elders. A lot of you don't even sit and talk to older people. You just kick them aside, but especially the ones who knows exactly what's going on. And that's a very small percentile. You're listening to all these mainstream pundits. You're still trapped by the very entity that's had you controlled this whole time. That President Donald John Trump says we're draining the swamp. He calls it fake news out there. Now, President Donald John Trump says certain things because he's in the operation. Your ass isn't. So if you'll shut up long enough and you listen and you go read and study what makes this outline of this 45-47, maybe you'll learn something. This is the only reason I have the followers I have. And guess what? It's probably around 1 million, somewhere in there, altogether. 85% of my demographic are females. So any of you females who were just in the comment boxes earlier on my Facebook, you probably want to step back a little bit. Don't look like what I say that hey, I give ladies shout out all the time because it's the women who's been the true patriots. Because most females, you do what? You read, you study, you're intuitive, you're inquisitive, you're not quick to judge. So how is it that I have #1 best-selling books that's been in publication since 2023 outlining this dash right here? How is it that they're #1 bestsellers? How? How is it I have a part 1, part 2, and they're still selling like hotcakes? How is it? Now, if you can't afford the book, that's all right. If you're one of those idiots that comes to my page and say, oh, you're just trying to sell a book, then why is it that you're not looking at all the posts that every single thing that are in these books are on these platforms right here? You have no excuses. You wouldn't even have to buy the book. The people who have bought the book and made it #1 is because they know what's going on and they want this on their shelf to say, I knew it before you. Because a lot of you are looking atrocious. You look just like the reason why we had to put this operation on America, because you're so full of yourselves, your entitlements, and all this other stuff that I've seen. Oh, well, I'm a dentist, and he can fix his teeth, and da-da-da-da-da. Didn't pay a lick of attention about quote-unquote Joe. You weren't taking up for quote-unquote Joe like that. Why aren't you talking about quote-unquote Joe? Oh, it's because he's on the opposite side of you. Is that what it is? Oh, you're taking up for something because you're a fan of something. Well, maybe if you listen long enough, or read a little bit. I've never been against CK. Have you seen any posts where I'm against it? All I said is this is part of the special operation. But you didn't read and you don't listen. Because you have your head up your ass and you're up there looking around for your tonsils. Because you don't listen. You hear to react, you don't listen to respond. Huge difference. In 2019, roughly somewhere around there, Charlie Kirk put up a photo. Tip of the spear. All right, now he's holding it like this, but if you were to pull this up like this, if you were to take this here and put this here, he's showing you he's a part of the operation. So if you'd shut the hell up long enough, you'd realize that I'm not against Charlie Kirk. I can actually prove to you that your boy, if you just love him so much that you can't see anybody else, I'm going to prove that he's actually a part of the turning point of the revolution that's going on. In a great way, not a bad way. But if you still be negative, your ass is going to be banned because you're not going to be in my comment box. I'm not him, and I have my platform, and it's my rules. So if I don't like what you have to say because you're not listening, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing on my pages, out of here. Special operations. Tip of the spear. Flip it upside down. You've seen President Donald John Trump in every meeting. Every meeting. Tip of the spear. Tip of the spear. Tip of the spear. It's a proclamation. It's a visual. It's a timestamp proclamation. All throughout the past 9 years. You saw Eric Trump. You see idiots in the comment box. They have said, oh, this is just a place when you don't know what to do with your hands. You relax your hands like this when you're sitting down. Well, what the hell is Eric Trump doing at the inauguration this year with his hands way up here? Does that look like a relaxing position? Did he not know how to put his hands down? He can't put his hands down like everybody else did on the screen. He can't put them down. He's got them way up here with the tip of the spear. Whew. The level of disrespect for military laws and military orders is unprecedented. And all you're doing is the same thing I said in my viral video, August 24, 2022. Go back and watch my very first video. My very first video. I talk about how you Americans with your cognitive dissonance, all you do is shit on all the graves, the memorial graves in this land with your cognitive dissonance. Every veteran that has ever raised their right hand swore in under Title 10 or Title 32, depending on if you're active reserve or National Guard. You can't have one Title 10 or one Title 32 without the other. So when you have invocations of the laws and orders with those in there, but they outline a strategic special operation via unconventional warfare and then also irregular warfare, which are unconventional for a reason. They're irregular for a reason. That means it's clandestine and covert until we want you to know about it. But it's all public. It's just your initiative to learn. That's the only thing holding most of you back is your initiative to shut the hell up, your initiative to sit down, your initiative to read, your initiative to study, and your initiative to apply, where you can comprehend. But data shows that 54% of Americans are at a 6th grade education and below on reading and comprehension. And I do believe that 100, no, it's not 100, because I got a lot of great followers, but I do believe that most of that 54% are in my comment box on Facebook. You're in your own world, you're in your own bubble, and you don't want to listen to the very people who know. The very people who know are the very ones that, not just me, but all the people who know, who can speak, who can outline this. Every person who knows is the most hated. Look how President Donald John Trump has been treated. And you're doing the same thing to me that's been done to him. So you have no principles, you have no standards, you have no parallels, which is still a principle. That's what you're doing. President Trump says this all the time. He says all the time. It's always Republicans who are arguing with each other. He said it's Republicans who can never get on the same page. You know why he says that? Because you're all entitled. You all think you know more than everybody. You all don't want to listen to the very people who do know. It's all about you. Your entitlement. You. It's all about you. And he says this, and he's posted this over and over, and I've shared it over and over again, where he posted this. Why is it that Republicans are always arguing with one another? They can never get on the same page. He wasn't just talking about Congress. He's talking about you. You don't even want to listen to a retired veteran and all the people that I go on with, multiple other special operations commanders, and a general, and then people do what? You say what? Well, it's only a handful of you. How come more aren't speaking out? One, because of attitudes like you. Most veterans don't want to deal with this crap because you don't want to listen to the very ones who know. Then you may have 10 people, 10 veterans saying what we're saying. Then what do? Well, why isn't there 20? Why isn't there 30? Well, if we had 20 and 30, guess what you do? Well, why isn't it 100? Why isn't it 200? You're never freaking satisfied. And all during the same time, with one veteran, 100, 500, guess what you still ain't done? You still ain't even gone and read what the one put out via .gov.mil sites. You ain't even done anything in that whining, griping, complaining, slandering, and all the other stuff process. So you ain't even done anything to just even see maybe there's something that you don't know that someone else does know, which is what? Cognitive dissonance. Because you don't want to listen. You want to get on Facebook, on social media. You live on social media. Now, it's good when it's good because we're here on social media. It's good when it's good, but it's bad when it's bad. And it's worse when it's bad. Because it's a short shelf life. And most of the people commenting here negative, guess what you're doing? You're everywhere else, everywhere, negative as well. Unless it fits what? Your little bubble. It fits your little comfort zone. And it fits what you think. That's why we're where we are right now. So, all of you who have a CK allegiance, again, the media are under a wartime order, and I can prove all this via laws, but unique laws and orders. But I can't make you go read that law, study that law, apply that law, and comprehend that law. I can't make you do it. But there's a unique setup that was established in World War II, but in also President Dwight D. Eisenhower. A continuity government and presidential emergency action documents which expand the power of the president lawfully. And that's what you witnessed. Right here. It's what put me on the map being able to do this. So again, military laws, military orders, military strategies, military tactics, military publications, military regulations, and military customs are not conspiracy theories. If you say that, you are one ignorant imbecile. President Donald John Trump must work with laws and orders. If he did not work with laws and orders, then the other side would never come over to the humanity side. And the other side would also turn even more so and say, oh, dictator, fascist, all the other things they're already doing it. But there's laws and orders that show he's not. And some of them, if they knew the laws and orders and if they didn't act like some of you been in the comment boxes, if they look at the laws, they may go, I didn't know this. Man, and I've had multiple people throughout the last 3 years write into me and go, wow, I judged you wrong. I was one of those who went straight out the gate, mad, bitter, upset, but then I finally went and read and studied, and I put in the initiative, and I'm so sorry. Welcome to the team. See, God put me here because I can take it. God also put me here because I know what I'm talking about. So I could be the most hated man in the world. Doesn't bother me. I know what I know, and I can't unknow what I know, and I can't undo what I've been tasked to do. I have #1 bestsellers for a reason. These have been in publication since 2023, this one. And this one started with the inauguration this year, so this is part 2. These are self-published now. I wrote these straight off the top of my head via the laws and orders that were provided by President Donald John Trump, and then also all your tactics and strategies that apply to what President Trump's doing, and what the military's doing, and what the world leaders are doing, and what our leaders are doing, in a continuity government, and also a military occupation and military government, which all coincide together. Straight off the top of my head. Not published. Not a big publisher. All right, so right off the top, they're #1 bestsellers. Those stem from what most people who follow me know as the documents. I wrote those from 2017 to 2021 that were published for my friends and family way back in January 2021. I went globally viral on a Facebook video August 24, 2022. So you can see the time gap there of those documents that had the same kind of content that was only given up to that point, because you couldn't have, obviously, 2021 to present day laws and orders that were put into place that coincide with this, but I had what you can know from 2015 to 2021, January, in those. And multiple people all over this nation, when I've traveled and spoken, they printed those out. They were free. I put them on a website where you could print them off on a PDF, no cost whatsoever. And multiple people, hundreds and thousands of people, have come to me with those printed out a long time ago where I'd sign them. Did I charge them for that? Nope. Who paid for the website? So America was never supposed to be your president versus my president. It was never supposed to be all this hatred and disgust and, oh, you believe in round earth, I believe in flat earth, F you. It was not supposed to be that. Whether you're a gay Buddhist or you're an atheist Buddhist or whatever, or I guess there's no such thing as that, but if you're a atheist gay or whatever you are, as long as you're not cramming it down children's throats, cramming it down the schools' throats, and as long as you're not wanting some kind of federal funding that comes from all the taxpayers, military typically don't care. Now, they're changing certain things up in the military to get it back to where it's military-driven, and it's supposed to be all about the military and being prepared for war, praying for peace, prepared for war. But it was never supposed to be all this bullcrap out there where you got Republicans and all that who are against this, and you got this group against this and this group, and it just looks like a ball of yarn. So if you're gay and you're Buddhist, if you can live at home and not bother somebody, guess what? That don't have anything to do with us paving these highways out here. So see, we can come together and figure out a system to pay for the highways where we don't have potholes and all these other things. Right? So why is it that all this crazy conundrum? That's politics. That's what the deep state did to everybody. That was a psychological operation. All of it. And I have a timeline, which I don't have time to do that on this podcast, from 41 to 2001 that shows you all the deep state moves. Don't have time for that. But I'm going to show you how this is a military operation. Again, so all of my followers, hang with me, hang tight. You know what I got to do to set up this, because if I just gave you all the CK stuff up front, guess what nobody would do? All the ones who just love and take up, they're still going to stay in their little cognitive dissonance zone if they don't hear the laws and the orders first that made this possible. That little dash right there. Punctuation matters. 45 through 47, 45 to 47, 45, 46, and 47. President Donald John Trump put that there. Now, they're not ready to disclose all this yet because we're still in a continuity government, and the law shows that. So, anyone who's negative or says it's this hogwash, BS, yada, yada, no matter what it is, on the government side, military side, personal side, social side, any of that, if you don't know what President Donald John Trump is working with, you're going to be lost as a penguin in Jamaica. And if you want to look like that, keep right on looking like that, but take your happy ass somewhere else. You can't see anything if you don't know what you're looking for or you're looking at. It's just that straight up simple. So, a lot of people out there, you've heard, all my followers and all the good patriots, we've heard it, haven't we? Oh boy, I don't see anything happening, because you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know the verbiage. You don't know the definitions. You don't know the index. You don't know the glossary. You don't even know the words and what they mean. So you definitely can't read a paragraph and understand the paragraph when you don't even know the definition, the index, the glossary, the verbiage. So, again, many of you think you know more than even me. I've seen it in the comment boxes. You're treating me like I'm some just dude with a platform. You don't even know what I'm here for. You don't even know what I talk about. And I guarantee you right now, it doesn't offend me. But at the same time, you prove you have no idea what I talk about and what's going on. So, I have no hatred for CK. This is not one of those about that. I'm going to show you how CK is a part of the grandiose finale on the most biblical monumental historical operation known to man. The draining of the swamp, the taking back of America, and once we take everything back and we can flip all that real hardcore hatred and we get all the crime down, all the homeless rescued, all the children back to their families safe that Tom Homan and all that crew's working with, which they've been doing this. That's another thing. A lot of you, they got your little mouths popping off today. You weren't standing up back there in 2020. Your asses were sitting down and you were obeying your employers, and you weren't even standing up. So a lot of you failed the test back then. You probably should keep your mouth shut right now. All right, especially if you ever find out who you are, and if that was you, you didn't stand up back then, you probably want to pipe it down right now, because there's plenty of patriots on this page right here who have been fighting, who have been trying to tell all of you cognitive dissonance and get your heads out your rear end and stand up and fight for the good and the right reasons, and you haven't. You're so busy, worried, and pissed because, oh, you can't comprehend that CK might have actually been part of a special operation military. Why would you be mad about that? All because they showed that he quote-unquote died, which is a special operation tactic when the good guys are in control to create leverage to be able to destroy the enemy even more. You'd be mad that someone's willing to sacrifice their platform and their media presence to actually make a bigger impact? Is that what you're freaking saying? Because that's exactly what he did. That's exactly what your boy, CK, has done to the world. And you don't even realize it to respect it and appreciate it from a military special operation. So if you would shut the hell up and listen, you would actually see how your boy, your favorite hero, icon, whatever he was to you, you'd actually see how he's a part of this unique, biblical, monumental, historical operation. So John F. Kennedy, another one. There's another one that people have thought may have survived, may have lived. I may know and I may not know, but I'm not going to tell you if I did know. But it doesn't matter. JFK. On October the 7th, 2023, the Special Operations Command put out a publication called Renaissance. You know the only person who has used the term Renaissance in social media? President Donald John Trump. Renaissance. You might want to go look that word up and see what it means in the bigger implication. All right, but JFK, in the very bottom, they shared his letter that he wrote in 1962, April the 11th. And I'm going to read it to you. Another military dimension, guerrilla warfare, has necessarily been added to the American profession of arms. The literal translation of guerrilla warfare is a little war. It is hardly applicable to this ancient but at the same time modern threat. I note that the Joint Force has several terms which describe the various facts of the current struggle as wars of subversion, covert, which means secretive, aggression, and in broad professional terms, special warfare or unconventional warfare. You can go read the rest for time's sake. Unconventional warfare, key word. John F. Kennedy said this was very important to put in to our military operations way back in 1962. The very first resistance revolution pyramid was 1966. A word was on there that changed in 2016, very key to this whole thing. It went from agitation to assassination, and we're going to talk about that shortly. Guerrilla warfare. October the 7th, 2023, you know what that date is? That's the date that they showed you the Israeli war kick off. And you think all this is a coincidence? If you do, you can take your ass out of here again. 2016, campaign trail. People say, how do you know what you know? Well, a combination of things. Grandfathers, all right, got them going on. And I got my lineage of military history going on, all right? And then I have me and myself. And I just sat there and talked about the grandfather in World War II. Okay? Well, grandfather in World War II is the one who taught all the puppet government in exile because he loved that tactic. And not many people, even in his generation, followed that tactic. All right, so President Donald John Trump is on the campaign trail, 2016. All these Republicans on stage. If you go back and watch, it was chaos. They were interjecting, interrupting, yelling, shouting, all this other stuff. And President Trump, that's when all of his facial expressions became famous. He was sitting there grinning, doing all those things. He was showing you this is all an operation. He sat and pointed to Ted Cruz. He said, the biggest liar on this stage is standing right here. He said Marco Rubio didn't have the kahunas to be president. All right? So President Trump was saying a lot of different things, straightforward, direct, but also a little uncouth, or whatever you want to call it. From the left, they would say that. Not from me, but from the left, they'd say that. Oh, this guy is this, that, and other. It's on purpose, strategic. It's showing you that something new, something big, something biblical, something monumental, something historical is about to take place by laws and orders. But you didn't have those yet, but you have the visuals of this. And Jeb Bush asked 3 questions to President Trump that told me what was about to take place. Because what my grandfathers and my great-uncles taught, who were all long gone. One of those was a Purple Heart at Normandy. So, again, if you don't like it, you're shitting on their graves. All right, so Jeb Bush said, who's going to vote for you, who's going to back you, and who's going to support you? And President Trump said, well, that's a loaded question, Jeb. That's more than one question. If the moderator would give me time, I'll answer that. He said, the American people are going to vote for me because they're tired of bullshit politicians like you. Every single one of you get on this stage and tell the American people what they want to hear, and you never back it up. He said, I am a businessman, not a politician. I will win the American people over by the economy because the economy is what affects the American people first. Then I will be able to do whatever I need to do and want to do with the military because I will have their trust over here with their paychecks and their bank accounts and their 401ks. Then I can do what I need to do with the military. But guess what? Never again will we voice to the public what's going on with our military, because if you find out, guess who else finds out? Well, guess what? I'm not. I'm not active duty, but I'm veteran. So I can tell you the public laws and orders that take all the military special operations and combine with your federal government laws and orders, your executive orders especially, your national emergencies especially, and your treaties and proclamations, and tie those together. That's exactly what I do. And then he said, who's going to back me? Who's going to support me? I have 200 generals backing me right now and more to come. Well, that was a conspiracy theory. All of you idiots out there who want to keep saying what I talk about is a conspiracy theory, well, guess what? All the liberals said that was a conspiracy theory, as if they were tempting the generals that they wouldn't actually take over this nation. And you got to remember, when you hear 200 generals, you think, oh, they could have died by now. No, generals are a fraternity. The good generals congregate with each other. The generals go to D.C. 2 or 3 times a year, whether they're active and or retired. And they pass their knowledge down. And typically, veterans, even if veterans don't know laws and orders, veterans will get with another veteran who does know laws and orders before they'll get with anybody else and say, hey, here's what's happening, here's what we're doing, and we're going to do this, 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 and I'm in, let's go, let's rock and roll. So that was a quote-unquote conspiracy theory that President Donald John Trump said that only people like my grandfather and great-uncles. My grandfather and great-uncles didn't know each other. That was completely different sides of the family. So how was it that same generation had heard that comment? We lost our nation in 1871 to the Organic Act of 1871 and 1878. That's when we lost our nation. Canada went back under the crown in 1867, July the 1st, more specifically. President Trump did what on July the 1st, 2020? Tore up NAFTA, and he established the USMCA, United States Canadian-Mexican Agreement, on the same date that Canada went under the crown way back when. And then on January the 20th, when we get there, you'll see that the monarchy is dead and gone by a visual that President Donald John Trump and the military gave you on January the 20th, 2021. And I'm the crazy one? No, it's because you don't read, you don't study, you don't comprehend, and you don't apply. You the crazy one. All right? The economy. It may look a little whatever, but it had to be up first. But it's going to be booming. Taxes are going to be gone. You're going to see all of your impossibles that the deep say can never happen, possible. And then you're not going to want to go back, and then you're going to want what? You'll be okay with hearing President Trump say, hey, we had to do this tactic here, and we had to do this, and we had to do this, when they reveal that. So you're only going to look stupid if you live long enough, and if you're still in my comments, if I allow you, you're only going to look stupid when they unveil all this. And I'm screenshotting all your dumb comments. So there's going to be a wall of shame that you can come back and find your little self making a stupid comment because you have no respect for the military, veterans, and present, and memorial graves. So let's do a lineup here. June the 12th. June the 12th, we're going to do the rundown. So we're going back to the basics to show you how President Donald John Trump set all this up. All right. So, June the 12th, what are the odds that 4 days before President Donald John Trump rolled down the escalator to announce his candidacy, what are the odds that a new law war manual was put out on June the 12th, 2015? What are the odds of that? And guess what they did? It was military and federal lawyers who did what? They took what? The Lieber Code, Geneva Convention, and Nuremberg trials, and they combined those. And they also took law war manuals from Canada, United Kingdom, Germany, and Australia, and combined all the strengths of those for a new law war manual. Oh, what a coincidence that is. And then President Donald John Trump rolls down the escalator to announce his candidacy 4 days later, June 16, 2016. February 2016, move to the next year. February, Obama was somewhere speaking, and he said, we're going to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Well, in February 2016, guess who was still the president? Obama. He said, we're going to shut down Guantanamo Bay. President Trump, same day, heard about it. In his speech, he said, oh no, we're keeping Guantanamo Bay open. Well, how come Obama, with his executive orders and Congress, didn't shut down Guantanamo Bay from February 2016 to January the 20th, 2017? They could have done it. Congress could have done it. That's who would have had to done it. And he had an executive order there in place to do that. Why didn't they shut it down? Well, here's two little things that show you that. April 2016. Guess who puts out a new pocket guide publication for unconventional warfare? Do I need to make it any more clear what the answer is? And in that pocket guide, it talks about government in exile. It talks about shadow government. It talks about Executive Order 12333, which is the assassination executive order. It says in there that the military can act without the United States government on a presidential finding and an executive order. And then in there it talks about assassinations and how they're a deliberate creation when the laws outline that the military is in control of a special operation. That's why all of you in my comment box look stupid. There's no other word for it. Atrocious, stupid. When you say something about CK and that this, special operations. You're shitting on the military. You're shitting on Graves, active duty, National Guard, reserves, and veterans. Whether the veterans know or not, it doesn't matter. The laws and orders outline it, that is what President Donald John Trump is working with. Just because you don't know about it, just because you've never heard about it, just because it sounds old fogey, just because it sounds far-fetched, it don't mean anything. It just means you don't know shit from Shinola. May 2016. So April, there's your unconventional warfare, telling you all these unique strategies of a revolution. May 2016, out of nowhere, the Supreme Court clarifies in the Military Justice Act of 2016, which was passed in the NDAA that December for the defense budget. So they're funding this. So watch what it does. It says that military courts are separate from federal courts, and they're funding this idea, which became a bill and an act. So why all of a sudden was Ginsburg and the more liberal Supreme Court clarifying out of nowhere that military courts are separate from federal courts? Maybe because Pete Hegseth just put 600 judges up for immigration, and that's just one little tiny sliver. Maybe because all those aircraft I've been showing back and forth to Guantanamo Bay. Maybe because Guantanamo Bay wasn't shut down. Maybe because President Trump expanded Guantanamo Bay to hold more people. Maybe because President Trump said it's going to have tens of thousands. And maybe because Guantanamo Bay is not our only location Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, St. Croix. Why did quote-unquote Joe Biden take all his December Christmas vacations to St. Croix? Oh. And then we have Christmas Island, we have the Atoll Islands, we have Diego Garcia. I don't see any of you in the comment box chattering over there. Most of you don't even know where all these places are. Oh. Maybe you should shut up and listen long enough. You'd find out your boy is actually part of the whole thing. January 20th, 2017, right before it, 3 days before it, the Federal Continuity Directives 1 came out. Same day, military put in their joint operation booklet, a brand new continuity government manual. January 17, 2017. June 13th, 2017, Federal Continuity Directive 2 was published. All right. 3 days later, the military planning, military operations manual put out. So there's your joint partners. That's going to come in play later. So remember that if you listen. On January the 20th, 3 days later after the FCD1, President Donald John Trump's walking down, and he takes his oath. When he's giving his speech, military soldiers walk down behind him with headband on, military insignia of Judge Advocate General and military intelligence. Never before have you seen this display before. Never. At the same time that he was saying we're taking the power out of D.C. and giving it back to you, the people, and you, the people, look this atrocious, why do you even deserve what's going on? How do you even deserve when you don't even know military laws, military orders, publications, anything, strategies, tactics that's going to give you more freedom? And you're sitting here bashing a veteran because you don't even know the freaking special operations of what this man put into place for you? He's the face of the operation. The generals are the one actually doing it. There's so many names and faces of people that I know who are active special operations that you will never know doing this for you. And it's always been this way. You don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. Your attitudes are shitty, and you don't deserve it. January the 20th, 2017, the whole world witnessed this. Quote-unquote Joe continued 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies by President Donald John Trump. Every one of those are deporting the migrants, funding Doge, taking the Panama Canal back, election interference, restricting telecommunications. And there's a few more. Hong Kong being one of those. That ties into your Panama Canal. All right. But why would quote-unquote Joe continue all those? I've got evidence right here that's already been validated. Right here, 636 pages. FBI gave this to Rudy Giuliani. Rudy gave it to Marco Polo. This right here ties in Joe Biden to China, Ukraine, etc. 636 pages. It was validated on the new quote-unquote Hunter Biden videos on Channel 5, this little new podcast out there where he's sitting there saying about the laptop, all right, that Rudy Giuliani, they confirmed this is all legit. Well, guess what it says in here? It's got sex trafficking, child trafficking, human trafficking, money laundering, you name it. Joe was getting money just to make a handshake introduction in China, $2 and $3 million for one handshake. And you people can't even listen to special operations. Oh, but you want justice. Oh, do you want justice? All of you, ye of little faith. Yo, you want your justice, but you don't want to know who the people is working behind the scenes for you to have your justice and your freedoms to be able to walk down the streets of Chicago, Detroit, Memphis, etc., New York. All these places going to be cleaned out. Oh, ye of little faith. 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies. Each national emergency unlocks 120 statutory powers. Now, they're the same powers, but if one was terminated, that means 7 are left. If 2 were terminated, that means 6 are left, etc., etc., etc. And then you got to know what those national emergencies and those emergency powers are. Now, the deep state abused their powers. The deep state carried those from one president to the next, and they kept taxing the hell out of you, and they kept bombing the hell out of everybody else, and they kept taxing the hell out of you, and they kept doing what? Printing money, inflating the dollar, and not accounting for the dollar when it got overseas and it was exchanged between other countries. They did what? They printed more money and taxed the hell out of you. And you're mad at me? Because you cannot separate your emotions and feelings from what was not a real death. You failed the test on AI. We're going to get there. You failed everything. You look just like you did in 2020. Failures. President DJT, President Donald John Trump, wartime president from 2022 to present day. Either the mainstream media has said something like this, and or their articles have said this, or shown this, displayed it to you, because that's a visual proclamation and a timestamp. All right? But he's also said it in speeches. President Donald John Trump has used the terms occupied country, which is actually, by definition, occupied territory. He's used white flag of surrender. He's used puppet government and capitulations. Ironically, occupied country and puppet government are in the same chapter of what? Those are all law of war manual terms, not government terms. So right out the gate, before we even get to why CK is a part of the operation, but he didn't really die, it was all strategic operation, and you should want that. It's all lawful, and you could leave all these other opponents behind and all these other influencers who don't even know military law, military orders, military operations, etc. You could sit right here and come rest assured and go, oh my gosh, this is freaking awesome. Those are law of war manual terms. And this one correlation shows you it's all a military operation. Occupied country and puppet government are found in the same chapter of the Law of War Manual. Do you want to know what chapter that is? The Patriots know. The Patriots who follow this page know. It's in the military occupation, which means what you're watching is an operation on the U.S. by our own generals, world leaders, and military, because the foreign nations have been here too, on our National Guard bases, reserve bases, regional airports, county airports, municipal airports with no military attachments. The only way a military helicopter can be on a county airport from another nation or regional, municipal without any military attachment is a military operation. And if you don't understand that, you're a moron. And there's no other way to split that hair. No other way. Puppet government, shadow government, government exile, unconventional warfare pocket guide, special operations, all done in World War II. Capitulations. From 2017 to 2020, President Trump went on what they call now a capitulation tour. All right? Capitulation means that we are submitting to you, white flag. We're complete unconditional surrender. All right? Capitulation. He was the first president to walk in North Korea. You remember Hillary back in 2015 to 2016? Oh, ye of little memory. Remember Hillary? Oh, he's going to start a nuclear war. His temperament. He don't know how to deal with foreign leaders. Pretty sure he dealt with them pretty good, even if you didn't know laws and orders. Where's Kim Jong-un been? Where have you seen little fat boy? Is he the one hoarding all the Twinkies that RFK is going to do away with? Where is he? No one's heard from him. Where did he go? Where's this nuclear war? Where's Hillary? Where's Obama? Where's Michelle? Where's George? Where are they? Why aren't they taking up for the Russiagate? Why aren't they out there doing what the swamp used to do? Why aren't they saying, this ain't true, Donald Trump's a lie, and da-da-da-da-da? Where are they? He was the first foreign leader to walk in the forbidden city of China in 500 plus years. He was the one who handed the trophy to the sumo wrestler. The Emperor of Japan is supposed to... The Emperor! He walked in front of the Queen, and all the dang liberals lost their minds. Oh, he's uncouth. He don't know etiquette and standard. They're showing you the monarchy's dead. The USMCA also shows you that. The talk about Canada becoming the 51st state shows you that. In our Articles of Confederation, November the 15th, 1777, long before the Constitution, guess who was included in our Articles of Confederation from our founders? Canada. You people don't know anything. You're negative, you don't know anything. He walked in front of the Queen. Then, at the NATO, he pushed the guy out of the way. Everybody loved it. Oh, you loved it, but you didn't know what you were looking at. He pushed the guy out of the way, smiling. He let the Argentinian president stand on the stage alone, walk right by him. The dude standing there waiting for a picture to be taken. President Trump walked right by him. The liberals losing their minds. You, negative, not paying attention. You didn't even know what you were watching. And while the liberals are losing their minds, they're paying attention. At least they're paying attention. They're just on the polar opposite. You're sitting there not even knowing what you're appreciating and loving President Donald John Trump for. There's more capitulations, but for time's sake, let's move on. 4 ways military pairs with federal. Only 4. You'd think that the simple-minded people out there could understand. 4. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro. You don't have to go to Cinco. 4. 4 ways. Military, as a whole, every bit of military pairs with federal government. And most of you people out there, a lot of you negative people, not you patriots, but a lot of you negative, you didn't even know military was separate from the federal government. You have no idea that the military is a completely separate entity from the federal government. You have no idea. 4 ways military pairs. Executive orders, executive, Article 2, President, executive orders, national emergencies, proclamations, and treaties. You know what they all require? Article 2, Article 2, Article 2, Article 2, President, 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 President. There's emergency powers with a national emergency. There could be a verbal national emergency or an executive order. Emergency powers. I'm going to break down 4 of those, only 4, but you only need the 4 to prove that CK is a part of the operation. You only need 4. And I'm going to break them down, but I'm going to name them first, and then we're going to break them down. Deploying the military, freezing assets, restricting telecommunications, and then also regulating commerce. Those are 4 emergency powers by the president when he declares a national emergency. So now we're going to get to the fun part. This is where and how President Donald John Trump is a wartime commander of a special strategic operation using unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, which are clandestine operations, covert operations, until we, the military, want you to know about it publicly. When he discloses it, like he said in 2016, when we want you to know about it, we'll tell you about it. But just because you ain't heard yet, or it ain't been validated by President Donald Trump, don't mean it ain't happened. It just means they're not ready for disclosure yet. But when a veteran like me can show you via the public laws and orders, they're all public, everything I talk about is public, which means it's up for you to be able to read and consume, which means apply, comprehend. It's not up for debate. And then there's visuals, again, which the visuals right here. Bam. Validation. So, here we go. The first layer of military that you saw in action, that you didn't realize it, but they put out there on the National Guard websites, all right, was a Title 32 order from Mattis under President Trump in 2018. Now, President Trump, in one of those 8 executive orders that, quote-unquote, Joe continued right on over to President Trump, January the 2025, that's active to this day, this executive order I'm about to talk about got extended. It got continued on August 29th, just a few weeks ago. Got continued for a year, which means they're not ready for what? Disclosure and termination. But President Trump's already, he's the first president to terminate national emergencies that had implications of war from the deep state. Syria is one of them. Congo's another one. He said, I've ended 7 wars. Well, there's 2 of the executive orders right there, Congo and Syria. that he terminated. So he's proven he's terminated. They haven't terminated the Iranian executive order from Jimmy Carter in 1979, but he's already bombed the hell out of Iran. So he's showing you the action, and that will be a termination not long off into the future. Also during this time period, the Senate, even though they're on a continuity government, but what they're showing to you, the people, for disclosure, but also validation of what I talk about, the Senate have been talking about changing the 2-year automatic termination of a national emergency. When you declare a national emergency, it has an automatic 2-year termination on it. It means if it's not continued and the Congress doesn't have a joint resolution with the president, it automatically terminates. They want to change that 2 years to 30 days. And then also presidential emergency action documents, which are most people never heard of. Dwight D. Eisenhower established those. They accompany a continuity government. They're draft classified between the president, DOJ, and a few other people. That's unspecified. The Congress wants those changed to where they are in the know of what the president's doing with a presidential emergency action document. Which shows you right there that the deep state was okay with that, because that was put into place with Dwight D. Eisenhower, and it's been an actual power by the president that he can use from the 1950s and 60s all the way up to present day. So if the deep state had an issue with it, calling it unconstitutional or unlawful, then why do they keep it in law? This is why you got to know the law. So President Trump's using all the deep state's laws and orders right now as they sit against them, because no one can say you can't do that. So he's using it against them, and then they're going to change these when they get done as a what? History lesson to Americans, that you need to know the laws, and we the people are the government, as described and prescribed in the Declaration of Independence. So Title 32, Mattis put in a Title 32 order in 2018. President Donald John Trump signed Executive Order 13848 and declared a national emergency on September the 12th, 2018 for election interference. 2 months before the first election under his presidency, November 2018. So he's telling you, hey, what's in this order? What does it say? Although no foreign power has altered the outcome or vote tabulation. Well, that means no one's changed the outcome, foreign, and no one's changed what happened on January the 6th, foreign. It was an inside job. Well, what did he tell everybody? He's told all of you, did you listen, or did you just hear to react, or did you listen to respond? He tells everybody, our gravest threats are not abroad, they're within. The deep state. So Title 32, Mattis and President Donald John Trump put the National Guard in Title 32 status for election duty. If you go to Title 18, which is federal law, Title 18, Section 592 shows you that the military cannot be at election polls on election day. Because if someone's in their uniform and someone says, hey, do you think I should vote for so-and-so? You don't even put yourself in that position. And then also someone that's a veteran like myself, if you were some dumb veteran and you thought, you know what, I can still fit my uniform and I'm going to go down there to the election polls and I'm going to persuade people to vote for my candidate. That's what it combats. It combats every walk of active duty, National Guard, Reserve, military, whatever you are, from going to the polls and trying to persuade you to vote for somebody. There's punishment for that. So they have to be what? On official capacity duty, which is federal. Title 32, this certain Title 32 order is a federal order. But it wasn't a Title 10 because they didn't use it all over like all 50 states. They used it in 14 here and 18 here and something like that. Well, they use the military because we use analog systems, not digital. So we can track the votes in real time and can't be hacked. So if someone is claiming, hey, they added votes to the other systems before we get all the new systems in place in the watermark, then the military can say, all right, well, we got the numbers right here, and guess who we can find? The cheaters. Because when our votes say 50,000 in the county, and this report here says 65,000 in the county, we can find that 15,000 people because their names will be on it unless it's a fraudulent name. and number, etc. But that's why that executive order is very important. It put the troops out 2018, 2020, 2022, 2024. Listen to what I just said now. 2022 and 2024, who did the world think was president? Joe Biden? Why would quote-unquote Joe have the National Guard at election polls counting the real data when he's turning around saying that President Trump is a threat to democracy, he's violating the Constitution, and he's all these other things? There's no Title 32 order with quote-unquote Joe. The only Title 32 order for the elections and the National Guard, President Donald John Trump, 2018. Why didn't quote-unquote Joe terminate those? Why didn't he terminate any of the Title 10 and Title 32 orders that the military is working on right now? Every order that the military is working on in 2025 put into place from 2017 to 2021. February the 5th, 2019. President Donald John Trump declared a proclamation 9844 for the southern border. He invoked Title 10, Section 12302. The reserve components. How come there's no Title 10 order by quote-unquote Joe again? Do you know when the troops went to the Texas border? Do you know when President Donald John Trump went to the border? They showed you President Donald John Trump at the Texas border, February 2024. The only person with a presidential title that stood with the governor of Texas and the adjutant general of Texas, the commanding general of all the Texas forces, and those 14 states that deployed into Texas, the only person with a presidential title they showed you was President Donald John Trump, who was supposed to be a former president to you that didn't know what was going on. You know what that would be if he was a former president? That would have been a breach of national security of a sitting president. It would have been a mockery and all other kind of things because it was an election year. So it would have been him using that as a campaign of a sitting president. And it also would have been a violation of his own Executive Order 13848, election interference. You don't salute a former commander. You don't at ease a former commander. President Donald John Trump walked in that fob down there in Texas, at ease! You don't at ease a former president. Especially, and here's the other thing, you don't salute as a president. If you weren't a veteran before your presidency, you can't salute the flag. President Trump saluted the flag all throughout 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. If you want to argue with that, before we even get to CK being a part of the operation, you have no respect for the military. You have no respect for military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs. Because the Adjutant General gives it all away. The Adjutant General reports to the governor unless the National Guard have been what? Federalized by Title 10. So you got an Adjutant General in the same video, live TV, to this day on all your mainstream platforms of President Donald John Trump, the Adjutant General, and the governor in one screen, and President Trump saying it's an invasion, it's a war, and a military operation. He verbally said that. He sat there and told the whole world what you're witnessing, what you're watching. And what was happening during this time period? What was happening just as of a week ago? All the liberals saying how it's against the law for the military to be in all these cities. They're yelling against the law, unconstitutional. No, it's not. And I'm about to show you how it's not. But look at the narrative that's already flipped with CK. Look at what's flipped. The patriots know. The real Americans who know laws and orders, which is a small percentile, know. The Adjutant General gave it all away. Because the only person with a presidential title to stand with the governor of Texas and the Adjutant General with the National Guard there and the man that says war, invasion, and military operation was Donald John Trump. And 14 states had deployed to Texas from the National Guard. The only way that was possible was that Title 10 order from the proclamation from February the 5th, 2019. Because that's exactly what it's specifically for. in the executive order and also the proclamation. There's an executive order from March 27, 2020, Executive Order 13912, which we're about to get to right now. December the 20th, 2019. This is very important that you listen. December the 20th, 2019, Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. Title 50 is War and National Defense, national, our U.S. Chapter 33 is the War Powers Act of 1973. In there, Section 1550. 1550 was not there until the Congress put it there, December the 20th, 2019. Do you know what that Congress was? Democrat House, Republican Senate. Under President Donald John Trump, a Democratic House passed the NDAA of 2020 that put this in the War Powers Act as a special operation. That's what happened. It's still there. That's what it means. That's how it reads. That's how it applies to the military. Because all of the command of that paragraph, what that paragraph says, all the executive orders of the other military are under that. Guess who don't have a name or an entry in the War Powers Act? Obama. Guess whose name is in a Supreme Court docket 23-939, where it specifically asks, can the president order SEAL Team 6 to commit an assassination on a political rival? And it says, astounding no by generals and other senior officials. And then in the bottom of it says, any military officer who carried out such order committed murder. Guess what's in that Supreme Court docket 23-939 filed March 19, 2024? Executive Order 12333, the Assassination Executive Order. That ties into your unconventional warfare. Now go back to Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. In the codification of it, guess what it says? It says it's not a permanent amendment to the War Powers Act, meaning it's not for future presidents, it's for a specific operation, special operation. It says that. In its correct terminology is what it's saying, if you know what that order is. And it specifically says in that clause, in the first 180 days after December the 20th, 2019, and every 180 days thereafter, the president shall submit to the Congress the what? The use of regular and irregular military forces to the whom? Congress. Irregular. There's your clandestine. There's your covert. There's your special operations. In that first 180 days, President Donald John Trump, all the blinded, all the people who look like a pig trying to read a wristwatch, all those people, you thought all this had to do with quote-unquote COVID. Nope. Not a thing to do with it. And that's how they dupe you. Because you have a attention span of a toddler. And a lot of you act like toddlers. In that first 180 days, Executive Order 13912 invoked Title 10, Section 12302. A few days before it, mainstream media tells you that President Trump may install a general just in case the law breaks down. You don't install generals. They're already there by command, ladies and gentlemen. You don't install a general. That was another form of a proclamation. All right? In case the law breaks down. Well, if the law breaks down, that means if the president can't enforce the laws, guess what we go into? Martial law. You might want to go read the Constitution, Article 2, Section 9, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2. Article 1, that's your Congress. That's not your president. And we have full proof that this took place, the writ of habeas corpus. Because you have what? You have President Trump in the Supreme Court ruling that he can use the 1798 Aliens Act, which means he can deport people without any kind of trial. That's what that meant. He can deport as he sees fit, presidential finding, executive order. That's from your unconventional warfare. But guess what Article 1 is? Legislation. Legislative branch. That means the Congress suspended the writ of habeas corpus, not President Donald John Trump, which means it's bipartisan. So you go back to December the 2019, Democrat House, Republican, Senate. You can't separate these either. A lot of people are separating because you think this was separate from this right here. It's not. Because presidential emergency action documents expand the power of the president. And we're going to get to those. March 27th, Executive Order 13912, Title 10. April the 1st, no April Fools here, April the 1st, Southern Command with 22 joint partners launches a war against drug trafficking, human rights abuse, all forms of trafficking, off of President Trump's executive orders, 13818, which is a national emergency and executive order, his first for human rights abuse. He also has other opioids, online and human trafficking, all kinds of human trafficking, sex trafficking, child trafficking orders. April the 1st, 2020, 22 joint partners. That vessel that was just blown up a few days ago, the liberals were going nuts over. April 1st, 2020. Joint partners, 22 of them. April the 30th, 2020. President Trump gave a direct order to his Secretary of Defense in Executive Order 13919 on April the 30th. In there, it specifically says for a specific operation in the Western Hemisphere. If you'll watch my post, I put up all the time, President Trump every now and then put up something with the Western Hemisphere. It shows you this is still ongoing because that ties into that executive order. None of these executive orders were terminated by quote-unquote Joe. They're active. In that executive order, President Trump invoked Title 10, Section 12304, which is very, very important to what's going on in California, what's going to take place in New Orleans, Memphis, Chicago, etc. But it's already taking place in California. You had the liberals out there saying it's unconstitutional and unlawful for the military to be in our streets. They were trying to quote Title 32, Section 502. They don't even know what Article 1, Section 8, Clause 15 and 16 talks about. They don't even know any of that. They haven't even looked this up. It says deemed by the whom? The Congress. The Congress. The Congress. Not the President. The Congress. Which is what our what? Original Constitution says. The Congress is the one who declares these. And the liberals are going stir crazy, and you have full-blown evidence that everything the military is working on to this day was back from 2019 and 2020. Executive Order 13919 was a direct order to the Secretary of Defense. The Secretary of Defense works directly under the Commander-in-Chief. Executive Order 13919. So Title 10, 12304, letter B, go look it up. It requires 2 years prior funding, meaning it's 2 years preparation. It's pre-planned. In our special operations, in our civil affairs, in our military operations publications, guess what it shows? A graph in there, and it tells you, pre-planned. So you're going to argue with the military? Is that what you want? Because that's what everybody's looking like, the ones that's negative. And don't even realize that CK is a part of a grander, grandiose, massive plan. Civil Affairs. Civil Affairs 2016, 2017. Leveraging Civil Affairs. It's 135 pages. It talks about the pre-planning. It talks about the funding of executive orders, but also the 12304. You got to go look that up and read that. I tie all these in. The defense primers, the Congress, everything. 12304, Civil Affairs. That's very key. Well, let me look at my notes really quick because I'm trying to stay on point here. So the Civil Affairs, I might as well cover that now. There's 3 things that were consistent with quote-unquote Joe. It was fake, the Joe part, but it was real, the military operations, and what they were giving you. 3 things. insignia on a headband. Every time they showed quote-unquote Joe around what people thought was the military, you had to look at the headbands. Same headbands that President Donald John Trump showed you January 20th, 2017. Judge Advocate General, military intelligence, and they added one more in there. It sounds like two, which sounds like a total of four, but it's only a total of three. This sounds like two. It's not. It's all together. Civil affairs and psychological operations. So if you're arguing with me, your ass is being psyoped. But it's a counter psyop. We're trying to deprogram you from the days of old and the past. You got to get away from fake media. You got to get away from mainstream media. You got to get away from all that. You got to get away from influencers that don't know laws and orders. You got to get away from that. You got to empower yourself, and you're not. You're still following hook, line, and sinker the days of old, and we're leaving that. Executive Order 13961 in the second 180 days invoked a continuity government. All right, that is your Executive Order 13961, December the 7th, 2020. 3 days later, the most recent order of succession within the Department of Defense, now the Department of War again, as established by George Washington, in Executive Order 13963, the most recent order of succession within the Department of War is from December the 10th, 2020. Every president has had an order of succession within a military domain, your Department of War, and National Security, except for quote-unquote Joe. But they told you, oh, Joe had a meeting today with the NSC and the National Security, and he don't even have an order of succession with them. So how can you have how can you have a meeting when you don't have an order of succession? How can you have a meeting with the Joint Chiefs, your generals, if you don't even have an order of succession? The last order of succession is with President Donald John Trump. And the reason why that's important is because guess whose name's on it? So if something would have happened to quote-unquote Joe, which he wasn't real, but if you got to hypothetically show that, then guess who they can listen to? The last signature. So then you got to go back to what? Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. Here's your clause up here. Here's your codification telling you it's temporary. Here, down here in the bottom, it says what? July 19, 2021, quote-unquote Joe relinquished his power and authority to whom? The Secretary of Defense. The what? The power and authority of what? Orders vested in whom? The President of 1550. That, in layman's terms, this is the layman, so the dummies. You know those little booklets out there about the dummies? Here you go. This is for the dummies, layman's terms. That was Joe Biden giving his full president and commander-in-chief authority to the Secretary of Defense that was under President Donald John Trump. Need I say more? No, I shouldn't have to. Special operations. In World War II, when my grandfather served, 43 to 45, the Second Philippine Republic, there was a capitulation that took place between the Philippines and the United States. That president of the Philippines came to Washington, D.C. and was directly under Roosevelt, under his command, with the military. He had full control of the military. Japan installed a faux, F-A-U-X, fake, faux president, and had nothing but control of what? Civil affairs. The media thought it was real, and all the little negative people over in the Philippines and all the people who just fell hook, line, and sinker for that media and press back then thought he was real as well. But it wasn't. And when history told the tale, guess what it told the tale of? That Kazan, the real president of the war, was with President Roosevelt in Washington, D.C. There's your military and your civil affairs. There's your tie-in of the three things that were quote-unquote consistent with quote-unquote Joe. Military intelligence, Judge Advocate General, civil affairs, psychological operations. You've all been psyoped, but it's a counter-psyop for your own good because some of you are so dumb you don't even know it. All right. December the 14th, 2020. President Trump filed through the state of Texas, through the United States Supreme Court against the battleground states of 2020. What are the odds that the battleground states, the flip states, of 2020 were the same flip states of 2024? Do you not know that the flip states, the swing states, do you not know that that was the deep state system of how they rid the elections of the past? It's that simple. That's where they rid their elections. And the same 7 states of 2020 were the same 7 states of 2024? And you didn't know anything about Executive Order 13848 and the Title 32 order with the military out with the election polls? CK is a part of the operation. January the 1st, 2021, moving into 2021. So you see all these things, continuity government invoked. They're getting ready to move into your military government, your military occupation, full-fledged, your full visuals. All right, moving up. January the 1st, 2021. FEMA, remember the FCD1 and FCD2? FEMA puts out another publication under those are your umbrellas. FEMA puts out a publication. It's titled Reconstitution of the Executive Branch. You know what a reconstitution is, ladies and gentlemen? That means you're taking something in its state that it's sitting in and putting it back into its origin, its original state. So they're telling you we're taking the executive branch where it's sitting now and we're going to put it back into its original state. Now what they displayed to you was a quote-unquote crappy state with quote-unquote Joe, where you would see firsthand that, oh, what the heck? This went sky high and this did that. It got people's attention. You complained, it got your attention. If you groped and whined and all, it got your attention. You paid attention. All right? And then they cleaned out more and more and more bylaws and orders. That's when they went heavy underground tunnels. That's when they went heavy over Israel, Ukraine, etc. with special operations. And the laws and orders show this. January the 1st. They told you what was about to take place. January the 6th. All the liberals fell for this side, and then Republicans and conservatives who aren't patriots, who don't know laws and orders, you were still sulking over November the 4th, 2020, that you didn't even know what was going on in the bigger picture. So therefore, your cognitive dissonance really stepped on all over everything. And then when someone like me was trying to tell you what was going on back then, people who didn't know me, my own friends and family said what? Same thing all these people have done today about CK and how crazy I am and all that. It's like going viral all over again with the cognitive dissonance. But that's okay, because I know you don't know. I know you've been duped. I know that you are stuck and you're in the matrix and you're stuck. I know how to get you out of it if you'll shut up long enough. January the 6th, the first time in U.S. history, the whole world witnessed 2 objections take place in the state of Arizona. Title 3, Section 15 tells exactly what to do in a codification under the Constitution when 2 objections take place. They were to stop the count, and they did. It showed them file out of the chamber, but then they filed right back in. They never told you what took place with Arizona. Nothing like, bam! And then the quote-unquote insurrection took place immediately after this. What a coincidence and great timing that was, that we didn't hear what happened in Arizona, and for the first time in U.S. history, we hear 2 objections take place. What did you see? You saw 2 20,000-pound doors open from the inside mysteriously, and then you saw Congress break Title 18 federal law, sections 2381, 2384, 2385, 52 U.S. Code, section 50211, and then Title 3, section 15. They went from California to Wyoming, certified the vote, went right on through with it. But you were a what? You were a front row seat to world history and didn't even know what you were watching. After President Trump had just told you, we have it all, we've caught them all in the campaign. See, you think you love President Trump, but I can prove you actually don't. If you're negative, and if you let something like CK, which is even a grandiose part of the operation, if you let that rock you and shake you, it's because you don't know what's going on here. but you don't listen to the man you even claim to support. The operation is still about President Donald John Trump and his face in the military. And the laws show we're still in the continuity of government, and as long as we're in the continuity of government, guess what we're still in? Military occupation, military government, military operation. Now, here's your next step up. New York National Guard. This is when people say, well, I need more evidence. You always need more. If you got that attitude, you're always going to need more. You just ain't never going to be satisfied. All right? But New York National Guard. There's Adjutant General reports from 2023 that the New York National Guard were in subways and also on some prison duties and things like that. But the subways and all were for what? Immigration. Illegal immigration. Governor Hochul put in Executive Order 28 in the state of New York for federal support. If you go to Google, this is how simple this is. You don't even have to know what I know extensively. You can just go to Google and go, Joe Biden, comma. You can put in Title 32, comma, Order, National Guard, New York, something like that. Enter. It'll say no evidence. Then you put in, go back and type in Title 10. Take out 32, put in Title 10. No evidence. But you got evidence of President Donald John Trump and federalizations way back here. And you got evidence that quote-unquote Joe didn't terminate those. Therefore, they're still what? Open, active. And then you have your Texas, where you absolutely have a visual of President Donald John Trump there. He wasn't seen with Governor Hochul, but the National Guard. If you can believe in one National Guard movement, you got to believe in the other. Because if we ever went away from that, and we had governors operating without the federal, then we'd have some power-tripping governors. There's all kinds of ways to slice this pie to show you that President Donald John Trump never walked away. It's a special operation. It's a military operation. It's a military occupation. And his speeches, occupied territory, puppet government, white flag of surrender, and capitulation show that. Way back in February, just this February, a reporter asked President Trump about a puppet government and a capitulation all in one sentence. How many reporters would know to ask that unless they were given that question? About a puppet government and capitulation that 99% of Americans have never heard of? Texas, 2024, we've already broken that down. Already broken it down. But again, President Trump standing there visually for the whole world to see. He told you it's an invasion, it's a war, and a military operation. The only order in place for the southern border at that time period was February the 5th, 2019, Proclamation 9844. And then he was standing there. Also simultaneous, while we're here, while we're talking about it, he met from April 2024 to December 2024. He met with 12 foreign leaders 13 different times at Trump Tower and or Mar-a-Lago. It was quote-unquote Joe, and you heard President Trump in the 2020 debate. He said, it was you, Joe. It was you who recommended the Logan Act on General Michael Flynn. It was you, Joe. You told Obama about that. And what did you see happen to General Flynn? They used the Logan Act on him, which is private correspondence with a foreign leader. If President Donald John Trump was a former president and quote-unquote Joe was a real president, you don't think the Democrats would have not lost their mind and tried to prosecute President Donald John Trump under Title 18, which is federal law? Because that's what it's under, Title 18. Go look it up. The Logan Act. President Trump, visually for the whole world to see, met in private correspondence with 12 leaders 13 different times. And not one single liberal said anything about it. Oh, he's just trying to gain leverage for the next election. Oh, man, I love this stuff. Hate away, haters, but you're only making yourself look. One flew over the cuckoo's nest. California, 2025. So if you can believe in California because you see President Trump in office, then you got to believe in all the other military movement, because the only orders again in place for all the military movement from 2021 to 2025 was from orders from President Donald John Trump. So the same orders that California Marine Corps active duty and National Guard are working under with California way back in June were the same Title 10 order. Then you had your liberals saying it was unlawful, unconstitutional. Civil affairs, leveraging civil affairs, 2016-2017. Title 10, 12304. Joint Publication 3-57. DOD, Department of Defense Directive. DOD Defense Directive 3025.18 talks about your civil affairs, your civil operations, your civil authorities with military. Joint Publication 3-57. Go to page 46 and read it. It says generally you don't want the Title 10 Department of Defense, now Department of War, forces working directly with law enforcement. Generally you don't. But it says unless what? Unless deemed by whom? Congress or the Constitution? Title 50, Chapter 33, Section 1550. There's your congressional approval for what's taking place. And then the 12304 needed 2 years pre-planning for funding. Do your math. April 30th, 2020. That's your invocation. Your only invocation of 12304 for what's been taking place. Do your math, people. Now, that's your military. It took all that time to go through emergency power number 1. Now emergency power number 2. Freezing of the assets. Executive Order 13959. November the 12th, 2020. National emergency. But it didn't even go into effect until January the 11th, 2021. That's when you saw Jeff Bezos step down from Amazon for philanthropy reasons. That's when you saw Warren Buffett leave the Bill Gates Foundation. That's when you saw Bill Gates and his wife announce divorce. That's when you saw Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook start dumping stocks, $25 million every single day for about 6 or 7 months. That's when you also saw Tim Cook of Tim Cook of Apple start saying a bunch of stuff. Who have you seen donate to President Trump's inauguration in 2025? Every single one of them, except for Warren Buffett. Who did you just see in the White House a week or so back with President Trump? Bill Gates, Zuckerberg. Who have you seen with President Trump before then? Zuckerberg. I told you all the liberals' heroes are going to flip like dominoes because this is about humanity. It's about flipping all what became a culture and a norm that wasn't supposed to be. That's why CK is so important in the special operation, was to flip this culture and this norm that became this norm that's not even what America stands for. All this hatred and bitterness and yelling and cussing and screaming and all this, and you're wrong and you're wrong and you're bad and you're wrong. All you Americans do is look for wrong and bad in people. And you don't even practice what you preach by the man you claim that you support. Not just President Trump, but also CK. All of you up in arms about me showing how CK he is a part of the special operation. You're not even practicing what he preached. Your heads are so far up your butts because you've been duped by the deep state. And you've been controlled and captured and controlled by you don't even know laws and orders. You don't even know simple laws and orders, much less intricate laws and orders, much less special laws and orders. You all have your heads so far up your butts. Freezing of the assets. $636 pages right here. Freezing of the assets. This is proof of stuff that they froze. This shows how quote-unquote Joe, but the real Joe Biden, Ukraine, Serbia, you name it. Kazakhstan, China, Romania, Mexico, Serbia, Libya. Sex trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, every bit of it. Rudy Giuliani received this from the FBI. He took it to the Marco Polo group. They're the ones that put this together. You can still get it to this day. Look it up. The most recent interviews that was all over mainstream media of quote-unquote Hunter where Melania was going to sue Hunter, and President Trump said, go after him. All right, it's all theater. It's all for the target audience that needs to hear it. But if you want to know what's actually going on over here, that booklet right there, that's what this is leading to. It's all leading to that. And they validated that via the fact that mainstream media covered these quote-unquote interviews. And in those interviews, they validate the laptop. That all the liberals said was a hoax, or they didn't have anything on. Rudy Giuliani took this to Marco Polo, and this is the book from the laptop. That new interview, the three of them, the two of them especially though, of new quote-unquote Hunter, validates. Executive Order 13959, the freezing of the assets. You got to know that. It's very key. Quote-unquote Joe, but the real Joe. The real Joe was making handshakes for people, introducing people making $2 and $3 million just for a handshake. I mean, can you imagine if I introduced you to someone just for a handshake and you made $2 million? Can you imagine can you imagine that? Like if you knew someone that someone wanted to know and they said, hey, I'll give you $2 million if you'll introduce me to them. You're like, well, I know a lot of you would take that. You'd take it. Woo, boy, you'd take that thing quick. Freezing of the assets. That's an emergency power that President Donald John Trump. Why did quote-unquote Joe continue that executive order? Why would Joe continue an executive order with a national emergency that's going to prosecute him? Because that's what it is. That order is active to this day, September the 15th, 2025. That had to go through President Trump's signature November the 12th, 2020, through 2021, through 2025. Back right over to President Donald John Trump. Come on, people. Number 3, restricting telecommunications. Restricting telecommunications. That's 47 United States Code, Section 606, which is titled War Powers of the President. President Trump just has posted, just not long ago, about a month ago, but twice now he's done it. He's posted the upholding of the appeals court a ban on the Associated Press. The AP cannot go to Mar-a-Lago or the White House. There is you a visual that we are in a wartime order. That is a wartime command only. That the president can restrict, revoke, or terminate. What have you seen happen to CNN? What have you seen happen to PBS? What have you seen happen to NPR? What did you hear President Trump saying about MSNBC, which he calls MSDNC, after the Democratic National Convention? What has he told you? What has been taking place in the last few days? People have been fired from MSNBC for making comments about CK. If this was not a wartime situation, you can't fire people over a First Amendment. The only way you can fire people over this is because there's a bigger plan going on. There's a bigger operation going on that's going to lead to a what? A quelling of all this nonsense that you've lived under your whole life. It's going to get everything back to where we can have a freaking conversation without you getting your panties in a wad because someone knows more than you and someone who actually knows laws and orders that shows how your boy is a part of the plan. Nothing bad. He didn't die. You got to separate your emotions and your feelings. Some of you are incapable of that. Regulating commerce, number 4. Regulating commerce. Tariffs. Emergency power is regulating tariffs. Emergency power is regulating tariffs. You know when the tariffs were put in place? 2018. Did you not listen to President Trump in the debate with quote-unquote Joe back in 2024? Did you not listen to the man you claim to support? He said, did you notice he can't remove my tariffs? Then he followed up with, because it's bringing in too much money. That has nothing to do with anything. If Joe Biden was president, he'd have had every power that every other president would have had. It's called an executive power. He could have terminated those. You know why? Because the tariffs are what? Trade Act of 62 and the Trade Act of 74. They're presidential authority. So why couldn't Joe terminate them? So there's 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that got continued over to President Trump. There's your tariffs that got continued over. And there's your Title 32 and your Title 10 orders of the military. All those got carried over. Not a single thing, quote unquote, Joe did and could have done. He could have terminated every single thing by President Trump if he was a lawful sitting president. The tariffs have been put into place. 2018, from 2021 to 2025, quote unquote, Joe did not terminate one single tariff. From 2021 to 2025, not one single Obama, Clinton, or Bush appointed judge tried to block a tariff. But all of a sudden, in 2025, all of you Republicans, conservatives, with your heads so far up your asses, you're listening to the media, oh, the tariffs are bad, and they're going against this, and oh, it's going on your pocketbook. You're like, yeah. And you don't even know what you're watching. Not one single judge tried to block a tariff from 2021 to 2025. Not even a Republican judge tried to. They let them slide right on through. Tariffs. They also displayed to you cognitive dissonance, ye of little faith, ye of no laws and orders. They also displayed to you from 2021 to 2023 that there was a quote-unquote Democrat president, Democrat House, and Democrat Senate. But they couldn't revoke a single order by Donald John Trump. I love making idiot people look stupid. And it's because the fact that you don't have to look stupid, you don't have to look atrocious, you don't have to look ignorant, you don't have to look cognitive dissonance on my pages, which allow you to come over to look like that. And you don't have to. How is it, again, that they display to you that there was a Democrat president, a Democrat House, and a Democrat Senate, but 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies by President Donald John Trump that's deporting the migrants, enforcing DOGE and funding DOGE, taking back the Panama Canal, in which we just sent 4,000 Marine Corps down to just a month ago, all right, which President Trump told you Hong Kong was in control of. That's the executive order, one of those 8. Executive Order 13936 from July 14, 2020, with the national emergency. Taking back the Panama Canal. Restricting telecommunications. That's also an executive order. That emergency power. President Trump has that in executive order. Did you know that, quote-unquote, Joe funded DOGE in the American Rescue Family Plan Act of 2021? But President Trump is a threat to democracy for enforcing DOGE. But over here in 2021, there's hundreds of millions of dollars of funding for DOGE. Title 10, Title 32, tariffs, 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies, all doing those things. And a Democrat president, Democrat House, and Democrat Senate couldn't terminate one single thing by President Trump. But I'm the crazy one for showing you that this is a military operation. You don't deserve to be in America. You don't deserve to be an American. You don't deserve America. You don't deserve the military. You don't deserve President Trump. You don't even deserve CK. You don't even deserve the man you claim to love and support. You don't deserve him. His freedom of speech was allowed by everything that you're saying is hogwash and bullshit. His freedom of speech was set up by men and women like myself, all walks of life, from all over the world that have also served in our military. His freedom of speech was put there by us. And all those in memorial graves, like this bracelet right here. And this is just one. There's a few up here on my mantle. his freedom of speech and your freedom of speech was allowed by this operation. You don't deserve America. You don't deserve the military. You don't deserve President Donald John Trump. And you don't deserve the very guy that you claim to support. There's been zero White House military office since 2022. The White House military office is the logistics travels of Air Force One, Air Force Two, Marine One, and Marine Two. But every one of you thought you saw Air Force One, Air Force Two, Marine One, Marine Two. There's not even a White House military office. When you go to Google, type in White House military office, the most recent that pops up is Obama. When you go over to the Department of Defense, it's still under the Department of Defense name, but when you go to the Department of Defense archives for your national security strategy, the last one showing on the archive is from 2017, President Donald John Trump. Guess who wrote that? 3-star General Keith Kellogg. Guess who's writing the new one for this coming NSS? General Keith Kellogg. Guess who's in Supreme Court docket 23-939 that's going to prosecute Obama and Hillary for Osama bin Laden and Gaddafi? General Keith Kellogg. Guess who was in North Carolina last year after what y'all thought was a storm, which also had some special operations going on over there, all proven by laws and orders, all right? Because it said Title 10 in place with the military, which you wouldn't need a Title 10 unless it was a special operation going on. President Trump had a speech over there. He looked over and he said, I'd like to thank someone who's been with me before all of this. Before all of what, President Trump? Define this to all these negative Nancys. What is this? Before all of what? This? Who was it? 3-star General Keith Kellogg. Again, 3 things were consistent under quote-unquote Joe the whole time to show this is a military operation. Military intelligence, Judge Advocate General, Civil Affairs and Psychological Operations headband. On January the 20th, 2021, by military customs and military regulations, the whole world witnessed the most credible, the most visual validation of everything. So if you're gay and Buddhist, like I was saying earlier, and you served honorably in the military, or you retired from the military, whichever one it is, honorable or retired, if you're the gayest, gay Buddhist, or if you're the most atheist possible, whatever you deem as something just far-fetched out there, if you honorably retired or honorably discharged from the military, guess what you receive? A military funeral. So it has nothing to do with who you are, what your background is. Which means you, the people, have to believe it because it's a military custom that the military does. Whether you've been in it, whether you think it's far-fetched, whether you think it's... doesn't matter. It's military. You weren't in it. This is part of it. On January the 20th, 2021, the whole world witnessed this. 1, the man they said got the most votes in United States history in his whitey-tighty sitting in his boxers, this man did not get to fly into D.C. on Air Force One, but treasonous Obama did. Every other president, since this became a custom, has flown into D.C. on Air Force One. But, quote-unquote, Joe didn't get to ride on Air Force One for doing it. Oh, the most votes in U.S. history? And the liberals didn't lose their minds that their boy didn't get to ride in on Air Force One after this monumental feat? They also displayed to you Amazing Grace was performed. Amazing Grace. Oh, we couldn't have, oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. When Jesus washed, he washed my sins away. We can't even have oh, happy day. We can't even have some happy song. You can't, nothing. No happy song. We had to have Amazing Grace for the inauguration? And Garth Brooks has been deemed a liberal, and Garth Brooks was deemed as this deep state person. But Garth Brooks was just seen with legendary George Strait in Texas for the flood relief. And George Strait was just seen with President Donald John Trump as an inductee with JFK. And who was seen singing Amazing Grace at the quote-unquote inauguration? Garth Brooks. Old Joe raised his right hand at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is a violation of the 20th Amendment. Now, you'll have people in my comment box. They tell me, oh, it doesn't matter as long as he raises his right hand on that day. There you go. There's the 54th percentile of America who have a 6th grade education of reading and comprehension skills and below. The 20th Amendment specifically says, the president's term shall end at noon, 12. The successor shall then begin. Those two little words are so important. Shall then begin. I guess that's why every other president swore in at 12:01 to 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then there was no review of the troops. Also, when a president raises their right hand, as soon as they do that and they take the oath, that's when the 21-gun salute takes place. After that, immediately. You can see presidents of past have to wait until the cannons stop firing before they do their speech. Because that's respect of the military, which a lot of you don't even have. You don't even have respect for it. So, you wouldn't even know that. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 11:47 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then the speech over on the archives, quote-unquote, timestamp 11:52 when, quote-unquote, Joe started talking. Then they showed the whole world the National Guard and the troops. They showed the, quote-unquote, motorcade. Not a single soldier saluted that motorcade. We will always salute a commander-in-chief, and we will always salute a moving flag. That's why the flag is put on this way. It's showing it's always moving forward, always moving forward, always moving forward. It's on the Army uniform like that, always moving forward. We always salute a moving flag on vehicles. Neither one of those were done that day by any single soldier. Then you get over there, what confused everybody is because they have shown Arlington, they have shown the wreath laying ceremony before, and that's what confused everybody. But the first time in United States history they've shown two different cannons on January the 20th was January the 20th, 2021. They have never shown cannons at Arlington, ever. And they showed you two different sets of cannons. 4 cannons with President Trump at Joint Base Andrews, which is the 21-gun salute by definition. And the whole world, the media told you that day, this is the presidential salute matter, the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. You know why they call them the Old Guard? Because they're the oldest Army unit to this state, 1784. You want to argue with that? You think they messed up? They didn't mess up because they didn't tell you on the TV that day. They didn't say the 3 cannons they showed for quote-unquote Joe was the Old Guard. They didn't even tell you anything like that. All it said was, in honor of. Those troops were fat, as Pete Hegseth has said. They're fat and out of shape. They weren't even real. Those were not real uniforms. All right, and also, Army Regulations 600-25-2-3 cannon salute. Go read it. All of you, ye a little law, ye a no law, ye a little faith, ye a know nothing about the military. Go look up Army Regulations 600-25-2-3 cannon salutes. There's to be a commissioned officer present at every cannon salute. I guess that's why there's been a commissioned officer at every one of President Trump's, but there wasn't a commissioned officer shown with quote-unquote Joe's 3 cannons at Arlington. And they weren't real uniforms, they were fat and out of shape, and they were moving around They weren't even doing any military burying whatsoever. Three cannons at Arlington. And this is the cognitive dissonance we have in this nation. 3 cannons at Arlington. Go to Arlington National Cemetery.mil, official site. The official site of Arlington. The 3-volley salute, seen or heard at Arlington, is not to be confused with the 21-gun salute. The 3-volley salute is a military funeral. The whole world, with a front seat, witnessed quote-unquote Joe have a funeral service. And that was also a signifier that the monarchy's dead. Go back to the Queen, President Trump walking in front of the Queen. It all ties together. By military, army, regulations, and customs, quote-unquote Joe Biden had a military funeral right in front of the whole freaking world. 2017 to 2021 was the resetting of the legislative branch. 2021 to 2025 was the resetting of the executive branch. 2025, the present day, is the resetting of the judicial branch. That's why it's judge this, judge that, judge this, judge said this, judge that, judge block this, judge block that, judge block this, judge block that, 4th Circuit this, 5th Circuit this, 6th Circuit that, 9th Circuit this, 2nd Circuit this, judge, 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 appeal court, district court, 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 law, 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 judge, 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 block, block, block. They're resetting to the definitions of what the Declaration of Independence says. That's why all of 2017 to 2021 were unique orders with unique laws that put President Donald John Trump in this seat like this. 2021 to 2025 with your reconstitution of the executive branch manual telling you what's coming, and your invocation of continuity of government, which when you have a continuity of government, you have a presidential emergency action document. Here's how you prove that. President Trump, just this past March, from January the 20th, 2025 to March, what did he say? In March, he said, I've signed over 400 executive actions. There were only 150 in March. He barely even has 400 total now. Those that you cannot see that he's talking about are in presidential emergency action documents, which are draft classified until they want you to know about them if they ever tell you about them. But you can see them in action in other ways when you know someone like me who knows all your military laws, orders, regulations, and then how they pair with your federal, the 4 ways. They're all visual. I've already given you those in the beginning of this video. All your military movement, your freezing assets, your restricting telecommunications, and your regulating commerce. Those are 4 examples. Great examples, and there's more, but you have to find those on my pages. All right. Again, I show you 45-47. I show you the strategic special operation that allows President Trump to do this, to be the face of it. He's the face of it. There's layers and layers and layers of men and women behind the scenes that you will never know who's doing this for you. Some you will, some you won't. Most you won't. I know a lot of them. Don't think for a second that I just got the Mar-a-Lago just off of poops and giggles and just because of whatever. All right? There's a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I'm in this position. There's a reason why I'm directly over the target. There's a reason. This separates all the past for the every 4 years, every 4 years, every 4 years, every 4 years, or the occasional 8-year president, 8-year. This separates that. The line was drawn in the sand, November the 8th, 2016. Now, the difference in special operations and a mockery of a death, all right, is when you have laws and orders like I just outlined that more than clearly outlines a strategic special operation, unconventional warfare, irregular warfare, clandestine operations, covert operations, which are government in exile, puppet government, shadow government, every term you can think of that I can visually show you that's in place that actually outlines this right here. That is what that is. There's a difference in special operations and using assassination as a leverage to destroy the enemy. CK played a vital role. His whole company was named this way back on purpose because he was going to be the turning point in this new revolutionary war. We're in a war, but it's a revolutionary war. They're resetting the Constitution, they're resetting the Declaration, they're resetting everything back to way the foundation. And when you listen to CK, when you listen to him talk about the things that he talked about, all right, it's everything the founders talked about, all right, because of this. In a republic, there could be 99% of people who believe like President Trump and like I do and like CK did. There could be 99% in that. There could be 1% who think completely different than you and I, way on a different spectrum, way in a different category, but if you don't live with them and they don't hurt or harm somebody, then that 1% ain't doing anything to anybody. They get to still believe that way without being told what to believe. A democracy, which the liberals misquote all the time, they misuse all the time, they overuse all the time, and even some rhinos overuse and misuse the word democracy. We're not a democracy. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, we are a republic. The Federalist Papers, written by 3 of our founding fathers, the Federalist Papers, in between the writing of the Constitution and the enacting of it, are the Federalist Papers. They were re-emphasis to the people back then while the Constitution was going to be great. In Federalist Paper number 10 and number 14, you'll see our founder, the father of the Constitution, the man who wrote the whole freaking Constitution, is the one who wrote this 10 and number 14, where it specifically says that democracies are dangerous. Go read the Federalist Papers. Go read the father of the Constitution. All the liberals say the Constitution's important and da-da-da, but they say President Trump's violating it, he's against the law, and he's all these. They don't even know anything about our founders. CK stood for that. That freedom of speech. Now, when you're that 99 percentile that's still voting on everything, and we're writing the law, passing the law, and interpreting the law, and we like the law like that, well, then that 1% still gets to live freely and not be forced to believe the way we believe, but they do what? They reap all the milk and honey of the benefits of what the 99% are doing, as long as we're doing what we're supposed to be doing by the what? Declaration and the Constitution. For humanity, not for individual groups and anything. That's why I say all the time, I tell liberals, you don't want a law in place, because guess what a law does? Everything becomes what? Up for interpretation. Well, guess what? If that 99% is interpreting it the way I do, then guess what happens? They always feel scrutinized or whatever, displaced. Well, if it was never a law, it may not need to be a law. We may need some things that don't need to be a law. So see, when you put something in law, it becomes up for interpretation. And that's when you have this. That's why President Trump, they're doing Doge. And they're bringing the big government back down to little bitty government where we can handle it, we the people. And then he's kicking most things back to the states, which gives we the people more power. So if you actually knew what Charlie Kirk stood for, then you would actually know that what he did with this operation was even bigger than what you can imagine in your little world of what you live in, and you have no idea what's taking place. You're captured. You're captured by the old ways, and I'm trying to show you that the new ways and what he did in the special operations, he's a vital part of it. His name, Turning Point, is a turning point in this. Because look at your restricting telecommunications. President Trump is in charge of that. That is a wartime order. 47 U.S. Code, Section 606. It can only be done in wartime. It's an emergency power, which outlines the presidential emergency action documents that expanded the power of President Trump. There's your visual. All right? So restricting telecommunications. If someone said the most atrocious thing about your friend, then guess what? Well, you can't do anything to them. If they don't hurt or harm you, they can say the most atrocious thing. In a democracy, if 51% is in rule and 49% disagree, that 49% has to adhere to you, the 51%, and do exactly what you want, what they want you to do. That's what a democracy is. That's what the deep state was doing to everybody. That's why they infiltrated with all this trans stuff, all this DEI stuff, all the talk about racism and homophobism. They infiltrated people with that for so long, and people didn't stand up and fight for it, and then we did what? It festered. President Trump didn't use the word festered until I said it. That's a fact. He does this for certain people for validation. It festered to where poop hit the fan, and now everybody wants an opinion after the poop's on the fan. But you weren't listening to all of us way back here. And I'm not the only one. My grandfather and different people who've always been like this didn't listen. The majority didn't listen to the people who actually know. You're captured. So that republic is very important. And then what he stood for actually proves that. But people do what? You let your emotions and your feelings stand in the way of logic. You let your emotions and your feelings stand in the way of laws and orders, which is exactly what this man is using. He cannot do one single thing that he's done without what I'm talking about. And everything I talk about is what President Donald John Trump has done. Laws and orders that get us back down to where we can handle this. That's why he's removing the Department of Education. He says it's going back to you, the people. You moms, your dads, you parents out there, it's coming back to the household, your education. He's also said that any school that doesn't teach our history in the future, they're going to be defunded. When you start taking people's money away, boom. Only way that they can do this is a wartime order. Lawful. The judges are going to rule on that. You're going to see this. They've been doing it. They've been ruling on that. The only way they can fire people for saying something against CK, the only way they can fire people is under a wartime order. But this is how you set the leverage, and you flip this, what was a norm over here, you flip that culture back around and the norm back to its foundation, as prescribed in the Declaration of Independence. This was a turning point, a major turning point. Major. Look at all the people all over the world in the streets. Look at all the organizations saying, we're going to fire you. We're going to do this if you say this, if you do that. It can only be done in a wartime. Look at all the employers standing up now. Look at all the CEOs, CFOs. Look at all the founders. Look at all these company owners standing up now, saying if you say anything about this young man that they think, some of them are under NDAs and they know, but the ones who don't know, look at all the people standing up. It can only be done through a wartime order. Because someone can say the most atrocious thing about you or your friend or whoever, if they're famous or not, doesn't matter. If they don't hurt or harm you, that's a freedom of speech. But because we're in a wartime order, wartime occupation, military government, by law, this can be done. That's why President Trump had hammered CNN, he hammered PBS, he hammered NPR, but he talked about them way back. And they just lost their funding this year. All right? And then now MSNBC, they've been firing people for saying things about CK. That's leverage and that's destruction. Meaning you use something that big to go clean out. And what did Eric Trump just post just yesterday on his Instagram? A challenge coin by the what? The military. A challenge coin. And what does it say on it? Mission accomplished. And you think that's coincidence? I don't think so. Most Americans prove you don't know what you should and you're supposed to know. If you're mad, if you're still upset and bitter and all these other things, it's because you're the target audience and you got your head up your butt and you're up there searching for your tonsils. All right, so can't help you. If you don't want to realize that this is part of a special operation in a good way, nothing in a bad, nothing in a negative, nothing like that, that's your problem. All right, so now let's get to CK. Let's get to the real visuals of CK. All right, here we go. He's a vital piece of the special operation. As I just said, it's leverage. It's where President Donald John Trump and the whole military, the whole operation can go in and just full-fledged, just like Charles Bronson in the movie's Death Wish. Full-fledged vigilante. Bam, 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 bam. President Trump said we're about to hit all these cities rapidly. All right, which means rapid. I've been saying that. It's going to increase. He said he told you this way back in 2023. We're going to, what? Tear down bad and ugly buildings. We're going to rebuild our structures and our monuments. He said we're going to do what? We're going to decimate crime. He said decimate. Decimate. Listen to that word. Decimate crime. We're going to load Guantanamo Bay up with thousands. All right. He brought back the firing squads. He's the one who's been sharing you the photos of all roads lead to Obama. Who wants to see military tribunals? Reshare if you want to see that. That's what that's going to show you. He said we're going to rescue the homeless. He's going to show you a whole new United States in a renaissance. You're going to be able to walk down the city streets. You're going to be able to not have to look over your shoulder. You might do it a few times because you're not used to it, but eventually you're going to see. Everything the deep state said was not possible, he's going to show you is possible. That's going to be that economy. He told you way back in 2022 and 2023 that every single day, he said, we're going to start celebrating Memorial Day 2025. We're going to start celebrating to July 4th, 2026. And then he said on July 4th, 2026, we're going to have the biggest birthday you've ever seen. And every single day after July 4th, 2026, we're going to celebrate. That ain't Republicans. That ain't conservatives. That ain't just patriots. That's everybody. The golden age. So what do you have going on right now? You have the subpoenas of Jeff Sessions in August. You have subpoenas going on right now in September. And you have Bill and Hillary in October. And the timing of all this. And what did President Trump just say a couple weeks ago? Lawyer up, Democrats. Justice is coming. When you tie all this in, they're building up this big stage. All right, they're building it up. They're going to show you Obama, Hillary. Why didn't Obama or Michelle get subpoenaed? You got to pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. You're missing the big picture. All right. So anyone who says that all that's hogwash, your IQ is hogwash. And you're looking in the mirror, and that mirror is telling you that your IQ is BS. All right. Free speech only works one way. If you believe in free speech that CK stood for, he told you freedom of speech is what does what? Creates fun, and disagreement moves us forward. All right? But there's a big difference in disagreeing versus slander, hate, mockery, ridicule, cussing, death threats, etc. I've received them all during the last few days. I don't care because most of them are wusses. They don't have a profile picture. I've been my name, birth name to date, and my face the whole time. Anybody who don't show your face, you're a puss by definition. All right? But why are you so mad? Why are you mad that a retired veteran can show you special, unique laws and orders that outline that President Donald John Trump is in a unique, biblical, monumental, historical operation, and that if you're a fan of CK, which many were, and I liked him, my mom liked him, all right? Why would you be so mad to find out that he's a bigger part of the plan and the grandiose, and his very organization turning point is the turning point of this Revolutionary War? Why are you so mad? It's because you don't know what you're supposed to know. You're mad because you don't know what you're supposed to know. And you're reflecting it onto someone who knows what you're supposed to know. Sorry. All right. He reflected the founder's visions, as said. Now, ladies, you know what I'm about to say here. Women, ladies, patriot, women. All right? Women. Women. 85% of my demographic that follow me are females. The few death threats I received, guess what they were? Males with no profile picture. Males. Testosterone. Low IQ. Short attention span. Generally is what a male is. Most males that know what I know, high IQ. Critical thinkers. Problem solvers on the front. All right, so there you go. Women, though. Women are the true patriots of this whole thing. And I don't just say that, I mean that. Because I wouldn't have #1 best-selling books without females. Because guys, if you haven't figured out what ladies do, women will take a piece of paper with this writing right here. Women are going to read it just like it is first. All right? Then they're going to read it like this, backwards. Then they're going to read it from here to here, here to here, here to here, and every which way possible. And everything it says in there that a male says is a fact that can't be debunked, what's a woman going to do? A real woman, a real female is going to be like, all right, we're going to see about that. And females are the very reason why I have a platform. Guys and other women, if you've been combative, if you've been cognitive dissonance, you probably want to get on the same page because all these other women are seeing your comments and they know that you look atrocious, but you're lost because you haven't read and studied what you can read and study, which are all public laws and orders that outline a biblical, monumental, historical operation. It's not some little thing. It's not every 4 years. This is not just another 4 years. This is an operation. I wouldn't have a platform if it weren't for women, female patriots who have read and studied. There are females all over this country that write into me, send letters to me, send messages that they have small groups. They get together and study the laws and orders. They have small groups. I've seen them all over this nation. I have spoken at events and organizations all over this nation. And majority of the audience are females. Because females are what? You're intuitive. You're inquisitive. You're not quick to judge. You're not supposed to be. All right? But you're smart. You're intelligent. And let's just be honest. You love proving a man wrong. That's okay. This is why God made a woman. God made a woman to be intellectual, but the nature, the calm nature, nurturing, all the things that you are. Right, ladies? Exactly. Right? Guys are typically, testosterone. Oh, I caught a 12-pound bass. Oh, yeah, let's see it there. And it ends up being a 2-pound bass. Guys, oh, I shot that deer at 447 million yards. Pretty sure you had too much tequila there, buddy. President Trump's told you from day one it's central casting, central casting, central casting, central casting, central casting. He looks like central casting. You look central casting. CK's buddy the very next day, he said he wasn't very much of a central casting guy. Why is central casting? That is the most random 2 words you can put in a sentence if it's not strategic. And then you have evidence of President Trump from 2015, 16, 17, all the way up. Central casting, central casting, central casting. Go Google central casting, ladies and gentlemen. They're background actors. They're not Tom Cruise. They're not Tom Selleck. They're not all these big names. They're background actors. They've been using masks for years with the CIA. Everything that President Donald John Trump's doing, they're taking all the tactics of the CIA and the deep state and they're playing it against them. They're playing it on them for leverage and destruction of the deep state. That's what CK was a part of, and he's still a part of because his own wife has alluded to that he's still alive. You just don't listen. You got your heads up your butts. Other things, there's NDAs. All these people are under NDAs. You're not with them. You're not going home with them. You don't see them. You don't know them. And you definitely don't know special operators like I do. The military can work around you and you never know it. They do it all the time. We've done it all the time. You would never know it. I've proven all this via the quote-unquote assassination attempt on President Donald John Trump, which was all fake as well. It was an operation. It's a special operation via Special Operations Command. All right? That's why you got to know the pocket guide that I talk about, and you got to go study that. And I'm going to break it down really quick. First off, it didn't make any sense of all days. He didn't turn his head completely to the shooter, President Trump. He turned his head. If this was a podium, he turned his head like this. He looked like this, and he turned it like that. The shooter was way over here, not here. There's no way that bullet went over his ear and didn't pierce his skull. If he was looking here, it would have done that, had that been real, and a shooter could do that. But he looked this way, which means the bullet, if it pierced the top of the ear, there's no way possible it pierced the top of the ear looking like this, if it was over here. July 24th, 11 days later. People done forgot about it, and or they were still in their emotions, like some of these with CK, over what the news has told you, not what laws and orders show you that President Donald John Trump is the face of. July 24th, right in the middle of the quote-unquote congressional hearing with the director of the Secret Service. What did she say, ladies? The ladies called it. Ladies, what did she say? You have to listen to her because she said this here, she got interrupted here, and then this hit right here. You got to put those together. She said, they asked her, was President Trump given the same security that he would have received as a sitting president? She said, no. It was a continuity of what? Government. They tell you right there. All right, they told you. And just because I saw a drop down a while ago, a message come in, I'm going to address this while we're here. How can the American people deal with being lied to? You're not being lied to. Get your head out your ass. You're not being lied to. It's a special operation. You're that person that proves, again, you're the person that proves you have no respect for the military. You don't want to respect the military. You don't want to know about military laws and orders. You don't want to know about military operations. This man is not lying to you. It's an operation. Learn the operation. This is people who don't listen. You just want to comment. You don't listen. You don't read, study, apply, comprehend. 2016, unconventional warfare, pyramid. All right. The Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, Executive Order 12333, which is Executive Order for Assassinations. Ronald Reagan put that in place. All right, remember the first pyramid under special operations for revolution was 66. The word went from agitation to assassination. What are the odds of that? Remember that timeline. Remember the timeline. February, President Trump 2016, we're going to keep Guantanamo Bay open. Then he said, April, we got the Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide coming out, and then May, the Military Justice Act. What are the odds that agitation from 66 goes to assassination? And let's read what it says. Assassination, forming favorable public opinion. Parentheses, advocating national cause. Close parentheses, comma, creation of distrust of established institutions. Well, established institutions got crushed way back July 13th because everybody then got pissed at the Secret Service and the FBI and the local law enforcement. Remember? Everybody was tearing up the Secret Service for that. That didn't happen in this one. The first two happened. Forming favorable public opinion. Checkmate. It didn't just do it in the United States. It did it all over the world. Advocating national cause. Did it do that? Yes, because they were marching in the streets of London for CK. This right here is a pyramid for a revolution by the Special Operations Command, how you flip the minds of all the cognitive dissonance out there. When you go read about subversion and all the other things that we use in the military, everybody who's acting negative, mad, angry, bitter, upset, confused, lost, all the negative terms, it's because you don't even know the very simple laws and orders of the government first. Then you don't know the specific laws and orders that military works with that can go into a society who will listen and shut up long enough, and we can flip it back around for your safety, security, and your freedoms and your future for not only you, your children, your grandchildren, and all the way out. We never had this all this time. That's why it had to be done this way. And Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens said it best. It's easier to fool people than to convince them they've been fooled. Look at the people in the comment boxes today who looks at a fat nose about this long that went to this and then gums, I'm a dentist, and I'm there it is, entitlement. There's the American, number one American right there, entitlement. It's all about you. It's all about what you've done. Look at me and look. I don't show what I'm doing. I show you what President Donald John Trump's doing. Huge difference. You don't want to even know what the man put in place. The generals, the military. President Trump again said all roads lead to Obama. He's retruth this over and over. All roads lead to Obama. Reshare if you want to see military tribunals. That's a military court. That's your firing squads. If you want to see that, that's what that is. He just said last month again about the quit trial. I don't think people are ready for the quit trial. That's a trial in the morning, execution by end day. He said, I don't think people are ready for it. Well, probably not. Look how they're reacting right now. But then again, I think they are, and I'm going to show you how. On September the 4th, just 11 days ago, Melania, our First Lady, had a big speech at the White House. President Trump reshared, and he talked about the importance of AI, artificial intelligence, and every single one of you who are mad, butthurt, got your head up your butt, all of you, you failed the first test of AI straight out the gate. Hook, line, and sinker, failed, bombed. You're an F minus if there ever such one. You got an F minus. If there was even such as an F minus, you got one. President Trump, just the day before, mentioned quick trials again. Quick trials. Execution in the morning. Court in the morning, execution by end day. They're amping things up, getting ready for what are these subpoenas are going to do with Bill and Hillary. Supreme Court docket 23-939 that I talked about a while ago. It specifically says that any military officer who carried out such an order committed murder. The last time a president in SEAL Team 6, so the question is, and it's in Supreme Court docket 23-939, the question is can a president order SEAL Team 6 to commit assassination on a political rival? The last time SEAL Team 6 and a president was involved with any death was Obama and Osama bin Laden. That was May the 2nd, 2011. 5 months later, guess who else was quote-unquote assassinated? Oh, who was under congressional oath and hearing with Benghazi, Libya? Hillary Rodham Clinton. Ooh, who was the leader of Libya? Ooh, Gaddafi, Muammar Gaddafi. Who was assassinated 5 months after Osama bin Laden? Gaddafi? After he stood up at the United Nations and he said, are we not going to question and investigate what happened to Saddam Hussein? He was friends with the United States until they killed him. They let him live from 1991 to 2006, Saddam. What happened in between there? 9/11. Why did the military of days of old, and why did the government of days of old let Saddam live from 91, Desert Storm, all the way to 2006? Money. What did President Trump tell you already? He said, why didn't we take the oil? Ooh, liberals butchered the Bushes in the 90s over the oil. It was an oil war. Oil, oil, oil. Oh, my God. President Trump not long ago said, why didn't we take the oil? Most liberals thought we did. President Trump's telling you we didn't take it, the U.S., we. The Bushes took it. The deep state. Joe Biden. All of them. The deep state. You just don't listen and you don't know what you're supposed to know. Supreme Court docket 23-939, filed March 19, 2024, which was 5 months before the quote-unquote assassination attempt. It's right in front of everybody. You just don't know what you're supposed to know. I mean, if you love President Donald John Trump, did you just not hear what I just said? He just put in a Supreme Court docket that ties in everything, and they got the subpoenas happening last month, this month, and next month. Bill and Hillary next month. All these things building up. And the quick trial, quick, is talking about that. And what did they show you on TV? We're about to get to it. And then all this talk about Netanyahu, how President Trump is not pleased with Netanyahu. Everything goes to Israel. Saving Israel for last. Then September the 10th, here you go. Here's what the whole world witnessed. And I've seen every comment today I could see. The most ignorant comments I've ever seen in my life. You look at a fat nose this big and say it went to this, and you say, oh, gums got changed and this and that. Well, why is the widow showing the the old CK, on her profile picture with 5.1 million followers of the Blue Bass check. If CK had nose job done and teeth job, why is she showing a recent photo of her with the wide nose and gums? That's how cognitive dissonant you are. So on September the 10th, this is what they showed you 5 days ago. One, he's been replaced. Little bitty nose, lot more attractive for the females. Every female saw this. Every female patriot's seen this. So if you're in that female category that's mad and angry, it's because you don't know what you're supposed to know. And you're a drama queen. And you love drama, drama, drama. You know. And you've probably been spoon-fed your whole life. And you ain't been thinking on your own. You probably have a sugar daddy that thinks for you. All right? Money talks and bullshit walks. Third base coach standing over here. He puts the microphone down. All right. He messes with his nose. Simultaneous, he messes with his nose. The guy back here looking like a third base coach touches his nose, ear, simultaneous. The mark on the shirt. It's this. They allowed these videos to circulate. I got banned yesterday from going live on Facebook because of a post from November 2024. Think about this. Who's been to Mar-a-Lago? Who's got #1 best-selling books? That outlines everything to a T. And it's all proven every time. These books, everybody who has these books, everything's been proven in them. And they've been written a long time. And they just now are happening, some of them. And it proves it. It's validated every time. I didn't screenshot and Photoshop something. That's your cognitive dissonance. The whole world got to see what the whole world got to see. They didn't censor what everybody saw. And guess what it proved? The Americans are desensitized because of what? You've been seeing Breaking Bad, you've been seeing Yellowstone and Ozark. You've seen so much gore on Netflix that you're like, oh, yeah, they killed him. That's what you did. You didn't look at what everybody else sees, even if you're not special operator, even if you're not special military, even if you're not secret military, even if you're not military. You didn't even look at what everybody got to see. Everybody saw it. It circulated all over mainstream media. They let this circulate. But because you are feelings and emotions and drama and propaganda, which are the days of old, cognitive dissonance, you didn't even look at what everybody saw. Everybody saw the same thing. You don't even have to be secret military to see what everybody saw. You don't have to know what I know to see what you saw. There's a mark on his chest right here over the word freedom. Freedom. Come on, people. That's even bigger and better. The mark goes here, here, collar, neck. So all you got to do is go to them. I could not share it on my Facebook pages because of censorship. All right, and trying to save the page. All right, because they will do certain things. They'll block certain things and ban certain things for a while, and you get a penalty for it because I'm over the target. What you got to do is go to a mainstream media page, all right, or go to someone who filmed it live that day. Video record on your phone. Then go to your gallery. Pull up that video. Hit the pause button right at the very beginning. Take your finger. Then you do video screen on it. And when it starts recording, here's what you do. Take that little line and just barely move that thing over like this. I'm going to do it faster for time's sake. But barely move it over. And record that moving. It's on mainstream media. It wasn't, no one had time to take that and to create this narrative. And all. Everybody saw this. Except for you with your heads up your butts. You with your emotions and your feelings, and you don't want to hear logic and reasoning on a simple, but then, hey, there's a military operation going on by laws and orders. But special operations. It's a squib. It's nothing new. This has happened all the time, and President Trump says central casting, central casting. And then also, the T-shirt moving. If a bullet is coming at you this way, your T-shirt's not going to move. That showed you the squib alone. That showed you that was when he did his nose and his guy over here, this has been planned. They planned this as a special operation. And you're going to see it down the road. You got to hang on. But if you don't hang on, get your ass off my page. You're not going to be in here and being negative. Right? It's that simple. But one day you're going to come back and be like, that dude, he had it the whole time. They didn't censor anybody's videos. Everybody saw a gory, quote-unquote, AI video. Now I'm going to have to move up here where you can see like this. There were 0 stains on the shirt. The blood did not stain. If you're shot in the jugular, my friends, I know people who have been shot in the throat and survived, but it didn't hit the jugular. If it hits the jugular, which they showed, quote unquote, in AI, blood gushing out. If you're shot in the jugular, my friends, your blood will pump out with your heartbeat. But if you're hit there, you're not going to have the microphone in your hand still. And your shirt's not going to go back. Your microphone, you won't be holding that because your brain won't tell you to hold it. When you get hit there, game over. That's what would have been. You would have gone just like, so they said it came from this side, looking at the screen, over here. It would have just like this. Bam! And his hands would have, everything. If he even stayed on whatever he was sitting on, right? He wouldn't. All right. The other thing, I showed photos on my Telegram of deer shots. I know some of you get your little panties in a wad and you're all sensitive over deer hunting. If you get sensitive over deer hunting, no wonder you can't handle this. But it said it was a bolt-action rifle. If that was a 243, a 270, a 30-06, a 7mm Magnum, whatever it would have been, bolt action. I saw the rifle that they quote-unquote showed. Doesn't matter what caliber it would have been of a bolt action, you would have seen a splatter and a hole. You would have seen a big splatter come out the back of the neck with a bolt action rifle. I watch it all the time when I shoot deer. Now, I eat everything I harvest, not that I freaking care what you think, but I eat everything I harvest. Everything I shoot, I make sure that I get a kill shot on where the animal doesn't suffer. All right? Not for your sake, but for my sake. All right? But every bit of this was AI, and you failed the test. And Melania just talked about it just 6 days before. You couldn't even get a week, and your ass failed the test. No stains on the shirt. Then it showed the blood gushing out, and it never went any further than here. And you can see down here, where the hell was it landing? It never landed anywhere. And then when you slow the video down and you see it, it shows blood going like this. It's not hitting anything to splatter out a different direction. If I was ever going to cuss or take the Lord's name in vain, I would be doing it right now. This is how simple this is and how cognitive a lot of people are. There was nowhere where it didn't show it land anywhere. There was no stains here. Blood would have been everywhere. Blood, a jugular shot, blood would have been everywhere. That is how ignorant Americans are. And you wonder why it had to be this way? This is why you can't comprehend a special operation, because a lot of you are just special. You're special. You're in that 54th percentile with that 6th grade education and below of reading and comprehension. You can't even read and comprehend, much less logic and reasoning. No blood anywhere. And it's all a good operation. I'm up and tight like this because I'm trying to wake your butts up. It's nothing bad about it. There's nothing wrong with special operations. No one's lying to anybody. The only thing that's lying to anybody is yourself lying to yourself. Then you got idiots out there that say, oh, he had a ring that has a hinge on it, and it can move from this finger to this finger. In the video, the ring finger goes to the pinky. The ring goes to the pinky. And you got idiots, oh, it's a hinge ring. I'm pretty sure if there was such thing as a hinge ring, there'd be a lot of dudes out there with them a hinge ring, and they'd be cheating on your asses. Some of you ladies out there, especially some of you with your little butthurt opinions out there who can't think for yourself, you probably just are that little pretty woman who sits at home with your sugar daddy. I'm pretty sure he probably does have him a hinge ring if there was ever such a thing, because he'd be going out going, oh my God, I got to go back home to that. No, I got me a hinge ring. I'm going to flip that bad boy over to this finger, and I'm going to the bar tonight. I'm going to see if I can pick me up somebody with some IQ. A hinge ring. The only thing on a hinge is your IQ and your brains out there. And it's on the edge of the hinge, because you on the edge, because you ain't got none. Then they showed one little tiny clip of someone put in an SUV, and the whole arm was dye. It looked like Easter egg dye, but like crimson. Blood don't look like that on your arm. And I'm about this shy away from posting a photo of me cleaning a deer with blood all over me, and don't give a damn about your stomach and your emotions. All right? Blood don't look like that. September the 9th. I have to abbreviate this because this is one of the ones that gets you banned right here, shadow banned. So let's just say this. I'm the author of this. What is this? Okay? I have published quite a few books now. All right? I also have this as a #1 bestseller. Another group of people who have their heads up their asses. Country music fans. I've published these books. When you're on the thing that Jeff Bezos is the founder of, all right, we can't get banned here. When you know what I'm talking about, what a lot of you shop on, all right. Well, when you submit a book over there, all right. Prime example. One of these had a obviously a bigger spine, right? So when you submit. And you click that button. Let's use today. If I were to put a new one of these out on that certain site that a lot of you shop from that has a word in it called Prime, like a coach out in Colorado that's called Prime Time, all right, a lot of you have that. All right, if I were to put a new one of these up tonight on September the 15th, as soon as you send it, it's got a 24-hour window that it has to be received over there on their end. 24 hours on that they receive it. And then they start a review process after that 24 hours, and it can be up to 72 hours. Every time I've ever submitted one of these, it was 72 hours. The day that equals 72 hours, it didn't mean the 72nd hour, but the day of that is when it went live. If you have one that kicks back, like one of these had a kickback because it was like centimeters off. I had to send it to my graphics dude. He sent it back. I had to resubmit it. Every time you resubmit, it's another 24 hours and another 72 hours. Every time. I had to do that 3 times on one of these. All right? That's how long it took. But even if I submitted it on September the 15th, if they didn't publish it until September the 22nd, guess what date is on there? September the 15th. So how was there one of these out on September the 9th about this incident. See, the two options. Either that author was linked, if this would have been a real situation, which it wasn't. AI shows that. Video show that. Logic show that. Everything. Shooters show that. Everything. Experts show that. Either that person was linked and knew about it before, or who just opened a store on this certain website recently? President Donald John Trump, the Trump store. Who capitulated to President Trump? Who was shown with Executive Order 13959 way back again, 2021, stepping down from this certain company for philanthropy reasons? And there were multiple other of these up on the 10th and 11th that they all removed. The one on the 9th proves everything. They put these proclamations in place, and they put these visuals in place, and they know the majority of people are going to, oh, this is the craziest thing I've ever heard, because you ain't never heard anything smart in your life. Who broke the news? Who broke the news to the world? President Donald John Trump. President Trump, of all people, broke the news. They told you before they didn't have a shooter, they didn't have a location, they didn't know anything. The mainstream media, within a couple of hours, were telling you it was a 200-yard shot. How can you know it was 200 yards if you don't have a shooter or a location where the shooter was? How can you know that? How is it that they were accurate that it ended up being 175 yards to 200 yards? And they told you within an hour or so, they said, oh, he got shot at 200 yards. Then they told you, then they showed you the video footage later. Just in the last few days, they showed you this guy jumping off a building without a gun. Where did the gun go? They said it ended up in the bushes. Well, the bushes had to be right there by that building, which they ain't shown that. But when they show the panoramic view, the guy sitting down, CK sitting in a tent, under the tent, with an amphitheater view. The crowd was elevated gradually. And of all places that this guy, old CK, has spoken at, every campus, the day of a quote-unquote this, that the average people thought they saw, there's buildings all around. That is a security disaster in a normal setting. If you don't have the security teams to do what? Secure those areas. But they showed you an audience that went uphill. That building over here the rooftop was empty on the panoramic view. This rooftop over here had people on it. How come they didn't see anybody? Okay, now watch this. President Trump has hammered CNN. He's hammered PBS, and he's hammered NPR. He's hammering MSNBC. He's hammering all of them. Restricting telecommunications, revoking them, destroying them, fake news. President Trump is the one who did what? Broke the news. How come there's no chastisement from President Donald John Trump on the fake media for putting out this quote-unquote gory video? How come there's been no chatter of this gory video that was seen to the people? Because it's AI, and it's a test of what? The quick trials. It's a tester. And there's layers of the test that most people failed miserably. Again, F-. Probably need to quit school and go home. Just be a little sugar daddy's baby. That's what you need to do. Some of you, it was mainly females today who were disappointing. All right. No chastising of the MSM. And they're firing people only for comments made about CK. So they ain't fired you because you're a sorry POS and you can't come to work on time. You ain't fired you because you're a sorry liberal who they know you've been voting a moron the last however long. They didn't fire you for any of these things, but oh, you said something just a little whatever about CK that you didn't believe this or you didn't believe that, and I didn't believe in what he said. You're fired. That would be a violation of the First Amendment that CK actually stood for, stood on, and talked about if it wasn't a wartime occupation, operation. And the laws and orders show this. And your boy, our boy, the guy, whatever you want to call CK, is a grandiose part of it. And you're getting your butt hurt over a fact that a military veteran can show you by laws and orders, specific, unique, unconventional, irregular laws and orders, how he's a part of a grander plan down the road. I don't care if you knew him. I don't care how well you knew him. If you're not military and if you're not in operations, you're not privy to that information. Why is it a quick memorial? Why is everything quick? It was like, bam, gone. They cleaned up everything fast. There's no crime scene. The photos show this. Get everything out. Quick, quick, quick. Then they're showing her over the casket, right? Someone's filming over her. Just the hands. So the whole world can see a gory scene of blood gushing out of her neck and pow and all that. But you can't even see the face of a corpse. They can show open casket with yellow hands, which means you're living. Yellow doesn't mean you're dead, by the way. The hands are not the right color. All right, so there's that. They look like wax hands. All right. They show someone videoing over her. I mean, it's overproduction when you know. And she's going, God bless you. Okay. Then you're going to have people go, she's grieving. How dare you? No, she's grieving and she's sad. And you sorry piece of ass. You don't have any kind of compassion. And they can show you a gory scene on TV. But we can see the hands? If I came up to you on the street and I said, look, you got two options. Only two. And you can't get out of this. You have two options. I'm going to show you a gory shooting with the blood and the splatter coming out. No splatter this way, but I'm going to show you the actual blood. I'm going to show you that. Or you can see in the casket the corpse. Which one do you want? A or B? You have no other options because I'm going to make you look at it. We're going to hold you down, hold your eyes open, and you're going to see one or the other. So your choice. Because that's what the TV did. They didn't give you a choice. So you saw that. So how come you can see that, but you can't see the face of this corpse? Everything's too quick. The next day, the very next day, they got the empty seat and the microphone. His buddy says what on World TV? Yeah, he was never much of a central casting guy. Erica has shown a video of a hearse in a garage. There's chairs on the wall. And they're bringing the casket to the hearse. And over beside the hearse is a 1930-something Packard, an old classic car. That is overproduction. That is pulling on every heartstring. Oh, God bless his family. Oh, I can't believe it. That is overproduction. Speech by Erica. We can't wait. We couldn't wait till Sunday. Couldn't wait till Monday. Couldn't wait till someone. Can't even wait. We got to have a speech that quick. And it's all flat looking. She went from curly hair to straight hair. Her voice changes slightly different. Every female that's a patriot that follows me picked on it just like that. No sadness detected. No genuine detected, no authenticity detected. Reading from a paper, reading from a script, It's flat looking, it's AI, it's discoloration, everything. Ain't got a thing to do with how much she's cried and all that. If she's cried that much, then why is a speech so prevalent that quick? We don't even know when there's a quote-unquote funeral. So why is a speech so prevalent that quick? If she's been crying her eyes out and this was real, then you wait. We ain't even got to a dang freaking visitation yet. Boy, they got all of you, if you're a male and you really ain't got no balls if you think this is fake. So there you go. You might as well be a transgender. Go ahead and join their community because you have no balls out there. All right, but if you're a female and you're up in arms over this, they got y'all hook, line, sinker. This is what the whole world witnessed. You can't unsee what you see. You can't unread what you read. You can't unknow what you know. You failed the AI test straight out the gate 6 days after Melania. Zero emotions with a script written. Women picked up on this easily. Women who have read, studied the laws and orders of President Donald John Trump. All you others that hadn't yet, I would highly suggest keeping your mouth shut. Mark Twain has a quote that says, "It's better to remain silent and be thought of a fool than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt." Because a lot of you removed all doubt today for people in the comment boxes. I don't even want you to look dumb. I don't even know who some of you are. Don't know who you are, where you're from, and I don't even want you to look dumb. But you did. Who's filming over her? Who's holding But, they made sure they didn't show no face, and they got her head right there where you can't see no face. And in her speech, what did she say? He's such a good man. He's still a good man. You have two options there. Either he's a bad dude with something on his record that they don't want you to know about right now, and that's going to come out somewhere, or he's alive. Because when you quit, it was so quick, we got to do everything quick. Quick. Don Jr., long post. Eric, long post. Quick. Buddy's talking about central casting. Quick. Everything. See, the normies don't hear the central casting because they don't even know to look for that. They just see all this, sad and this and tragedy and all that. You're not looking at the operational part of it. You only see the emotional feeling side because you're the target audience. You do not write a script that says he's still a good man. Unless he's bad and you're preparing for the world to find out that this dude was a lie and a fraud and everything he said that you thought you believed in was not true, or he's still alive. And I have every proof via laws and orders of the military and federal, unique, strategic, special, put into place by Donald John Trump with #1 best-selling books to back it up already, that were already written way back in 2021, published 2017 to 2021. They all stemmed into that, and every bit of these are still being validated daily. Been in publication for 2 years. That shows that CK is not only alive, but he's a very big part of the turning point. There's no pun there because it's not one of those pun things. But the turning point, which is a visual, strategically pre-planned, Title 10, Section 12304 shows you that. It was a pre-plan. All you need is one pre-planned order there to show all of it. And then all these were continued by quote-unquote Joe back to President Donald John Trump. Why didn't they terminate him? If President Trump is a threat to democracy and violating the Constitution and a fascist and a dictator, why didn't all of this other theater back here terminate if it were real? Then you have a video of CK talking about women. He said women are all about a good-looking man, 6'4", with a pretty jawline, and money, 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 not virtues first. Well, if CK had surgery done, so see, we had someone today in the comment box looking like a fool. Said, "Oh, I'm a dentist, and you can have your teeth done, and this, that, and this." Like I fell off a turnip wagon last week on a pig farm in Iowa. All right, like oh, so you're a dentist? Oh, well, hold on, let me stop my whole platform for you, dentist. I've never met a dentist in my life before. Hold on, let me just forget about military and veteran and special operations and secret military and all this. Let me just forget about all this stuff. Oh, we got a dentist in the house who can tell us that. Oh, I got crowns, but let me hear a little bit more about what I didn't know that I didn't. Oh, let me just hear you. You missed the principle. See, I put up on my page, I said, okay, if this is Charlie right here, real or fake, then there's a principle here. He's telling women, I ain't never heard a guy be able to tell a woman what to do. I'm pretty sure it don't work like that. Listen here, women. If I did that to you, listen here, women. This is what y'all are messing up on. I ain't opening that can of worms. And here he is telling women that here's what women, they go after this. Da, da, da. Well, it might be true. Women might agree with it. But the principle was this. They show you, Erica shows you on her 5.1 million follower Instagram blue badge page, CK with a wide fat nose and his gum still showing. Massive. So if you're a dentist and you're an expert and I'm sitting here and you're saying, oh, this is stupid and this is, oh, he can have his nose done and his teeth done, then why is his widow, quote unquote, showing the one with the gum still and it ain't that old. It's not an old photo. Why she got it as her profile picture of the fat nose? It looks like a Dodge Charger, with the intake on the front of it. He could, if Hunter Biden had that nose, he would have inhaled the whole country of Colombia. In one sniff, Hunter Biden would have been all the cocaine gone in Colombia. If he had the nose that they show on CK. So, dentist, doctor, I know you dentists out there, you tell everybody, I'm a doctor. And then you find out you're a dentist and you're trying to do CPR when you're a damn dentist. All right? We know how you are out there. All you with your entitles. I'm a doctor. Are you an MD? No, I'm a dentist. Sit your butt down and shut up. All right? That's how this works. All this entitlement out there, you not once looked at the AI, the blood didn't go nowhere. How can it splatter this way when it ain't even going to the lap? It didn't stain the shirt. This spot went from here, 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 and here on mainstream media. The whole world freaking saw it. How are we this dumb in America? And the dentist over here. The principle was this. I put up these photos today. I said, okay, how did his nose go this, looking like a Dodge Charger intake, to this? Okay, plastic surgery can do that. All right. Well, then your gums. Then you say, oh, the dentist can do this and this. Well, why is his wife on her profile picture showing the less attractive CK in a newer photo? It's not old. It's not an old photo of them. They didn't even start dating that long ago. So we don't have a big timeline here to work with. 2021 to 2025. Ooh, 4 years. Woo, big timeline here. I showed my nose today 13 years ago, 6 years ago, and just a week ago, and it looks the same. It got a little bit fatter because I've gained a little weight right here, but it's still the same structure. Mine didn't go from a Dodge freaking Hemi to a little bitty skinny mini. Whatever is a Corvette. This is the cognitive dissonance we're talking about. This is a shit we're talking about that can't maintain and sustain America in the future because of imbeciles like you who, I'm a dentist. Okay, did you not look at the principle there, dentist? Did you not see that? If Charlie was telling women that they were looking for the impossible in a man with a jawline, then why is his widow showing the old nose, the old gums, in a recent photo if he already has a new nose, a new hemi, and a new mouth? That's the principle. If you can't understand that principle, you do not even shovel dog shit from your house. Let someone else do it. You can't even do something simple. The principle is he's in a video, and it's the new Charlie in a video telling women that they're looking for the impossible in a man. So if he was telling women that they're looking for the impossible, but he went and did what he was saying that men can't do, why would you want to listen to someone who is what? A hypocrite. But he's not. It's a special operation. So see, that's where your emotions and your feelings get all out of whack because you don't freaking listen, you don't apply. Straight up in the inbox, straight up in the comment box. I'm a dentist and I know everything. I'm finally here. Where were you with quote-unquote Joe? Why weren't you saying that's real Joe's ear? It went from looking like a dang raw oyster to something looked like even worse. It went from a regular ear to like a raw oyster. It went from attached to detached to detached to attached. Where were you? Why weren't you taking up for quote-unquote? Oh, because he's on the opposite side of you. Oh, that's right, because you're a Republican, entitled conservative. You weren't taking up for quote-unquote Joe because he's what? Opposite of you. Oh, that's why. Because quote-unquote Joe looked like he had a corkscrew up his rear end every time he walked. All right? Walking around like this. Where were you then? Oh, it's because he's on the other side of you. Detached ear to an attached ear. Teeth completely different. Nose completely different. Complexion completely different. Hairline completely different. Hairstyle completely different. Everything about him was completely... But it's because he was on the opposite side of you, you weren't paying attention. Because I'm a Republican, and I'm a dentist, and I'm a Republican. I'm in a club. You're not in the dentist club. And the one that really gives it all away is Air Force 2. If you're not a veteran, you might not understand this. But if this was not a military operation, there's been much more deserving people, even though he would be deserving in another manner, opinion-wise. Presidents and vice presidents are flown on Air Force One and Air Force Two for funerals. Charlie was not a veteran. That does not qualify him for a military service. They showed you the Air Force getting the casket, and you heard bagpipes playing what? Amazing Grace. All right? You got to go look all this stuff up. You got to see it for yourself. All right? But when they showed JD get there, the casket was crooked. Why was the casket crooked? Why was JD looking like he was pushing against it? It's the most awkward thing you've ever seen in your life because it's all not real. They do all this on purpose to show you. If anything, you should be mad because the casket was crooked. Then they showed the Air Force doing a marching ceremony. He is not a veteran. And if this wasn't a military operation, if the veterans ever caught on this, other ones out there, they would be mad, pissed, and angry, and might even turn on President Trump if there was not a military operation in place via laws and orders, because this is not custom of the military. Billy Graham didn't get anything like this. There's been plenty of people who didn't receive anything like this. And if you don't understand and respect military, you wouldn't understand that. But zero White House military office proves White House military office is the logistics of Air Force One and Air Force Two and Marine One and Marine Two. They showed Marine One out there with quote-unquote Marine One with President Trump. And then they showed Air Force Two. If there's no White House military office and it's still consistent with this, what are they showing you? This. That is a giveaway. That was your big top visual validation as a patriot, but that's your big top validation for you to come over to the right side to see that CK is the turning point, leverage to finish the destruction, pull the people in, and all the people with compassion and people who are saying, oh, we don't need violence. It did everything it needed to do. Eric posted yesterday, mission accomplished, and then we're moving to the next phase, and there will be a finale of all this. They're going to unveil this in history. History's going to account for this dash. They're going to show you the people, but you got to hang tight. But when they do, you're going to remember me. You're going to remember how I looked, how passionate I was trying to get you to listen, get you to see. But then all of you who removed all the doubt and you put your comments up, I screenshot everything. And you're going to look like a moron. So when you know the military laws and orders in place, there won't be any whys anymore. So when I hear a why in a certain way, it proves to me you had read, studied, and comprehended everything that I apply and show you on my pages. Also in my videos. This was all pre-planned. It was a turning point. All right, Israel for last, Netanyahu, quote-unquote, Charlie had threats from there. All right, they're going to tie all this in to leverage to fire and destroy people. Fire and destroy what needs to be fired and what needs to be destroyed. All right, the second thing it did, colleges. The brainwashing that colleges have done to your children everywhere, and I can speak, I have a master's degree in business from Colorado State. Oh, there's my entitlement. Where you at, dentist? I have an MBA that I've never used because it's just a piece of paper from a man-made institution. You want a degree out there? You just got to have a degree, ladies and gentlemen. Learn the professors. Go to college, learn the professors, learn to act like them, talk like them, write like them, and you can pass their class. Bingo. It's just a man-made institution. Look what they've done to society. CK talked about it. He was talking about, look at all the people who attacked him for not finishing college. All right. This whole thing was about that. You don't have to go to college to be smart. You don't have to go to law school to know the law. You don't have to be a congressman or woman to know the law. So the very thing that people attack me over are the very things that he stood for. And stands for. Because he is still standing. It's also going to show you the election numbers. So when they finally disclose the election numbers and the real-time numbers that President Trump said we have it all, we call them all, they're going to show you that this nation ain't as dumb as far as this goes, voting-wise, but we got to get all these voters intact with laws and orders and how our nation operates and functions. And President Trump said any school that doesn't teach our history in the future, when they get to that point, they will be defunded. High school, college. Boom. All right. This was never about my president and your president. This is to drain the swamp, flip us back on the Declaration of Independence. All right. It's exactly what's going on. It's a counter-psychological operation because Twain said it. It's easier to fool you than to convince you've been fooled. It's a resetting of the dates. Everything that's happened with President Donald John Trump, they put a lot of these things on dates that were important that the cabal and the deep state used back here. We're putting all these good things on all these dates. President Trump said the golden age is right ahead. The golden age. He said Memorial Day, this was 2 and 3 years ago, he said Memorial Day 2025, we will start the celebration, and then when we get to July 4, 2026, we will celebrate every single day after that. The only way that liberals, Republicans, and everything can celebrate our 250th birthday is for President Trump to be exonerated before then. So you got to hang tight, patriots. All the others out there, you got to ignore them if they remain in Norman land, which we know that. You got to separate 45-47 from every other president in history. This right here is a special strategic operation. President Trump validated that April the 2nd, 2023. All right. There will be disclosure. There's been small disclosures along the way. The tip of the spear by President Trump. CK did it. Eric did it. It's the tip of the spear. Special operations. All right. It's not Space Force and all the other things. All right. Now, if you just want to use Space Force, no one's going to get mad at you. But this is tip of the spear. That's what that is. Special operations. President Trump was at Fort Bragg not long ago with it on the side of his ball cap. A lot of things took place. So you can't just pick this up one day without everything from November the 8th, 2016, moving forward. I can't unknow what I know, and everybody who follows me can't unknow what they know. The people who have been following me on my pages, if you're new, you're welcome here. But if you're new and you're quick to talk without reading and studying and trying to comprehend what my page has been here for over 3 years now, you're just hurting yourself. You're doing yourself an injustice. All right? And I don't allow arguments and fights in the comment box, so I'll block and ban you. I don't monetize my page anyway, so I don't make money on my pages. All right? So I'm not here for the numbers. I'm not here to see how many I can reach. I'll block and ban you quicker than a cat can lick its butt. All right, so these are #1 bestsellers for a reason. If you can't afford them, that's all right. Everything I do is all on my pages. Linktree, linktr.ee/1776nation. That shows you all my official accounts. All right, obviously I can post more on Facebook and I can post more on Telegram because they don't allow, or they don't actually, have character limits on it. Not that I've found yet. You can upload or post as many as you want. All right, my posts are long. You got to read them from top to bottom. I see so many people who will comment in the comment box something completely different, not even on the topic of what's been posted. So what are you doing? You're not even utilizing the page correctly. The other thing is I will never apologize for my intelligence for the lack of yours. All right, never. If you don't like me, that's fine. I love me, my mom loves me, my dad loves me. Those are the two people I have to answer to. All right. God put me here. I didn't. I went globally viral, talking the same way, acting the same way. I've been consistent. Everybody who follows me knows this is my personality. If you don't like it, leave. Pretty simple. All right. I don't want you to leave because the very thing that I have is the very thing you need to know, and it's the very thing that separates your feelings and your emotions, and you will love President Trump even more. First off, you'll love God even more. You'll love this nation even more. You'll love the military even more. You'll love President Trump even more. And you'll actually love CK even more when you realize the bigger picture of what's going on. When you remove your feelings and your emotions and you let logic and reasoning get in your life and remove mainstream media, and 99% of the influencers out there, they have no clue what's going on. That's also what this is doing. It's also showing you, when this is all said and done, the people who already know. These have already been validated. I've already been validated by President Donald John Trump himself. I've been to Mar-a-Lago quite a few times, Trump to Rao, Trump International. I signed my publicity contract at President Donald John Trump's actual reserved table in his seat. He's never let anybody sit in his chair, and I did it. All right, this is all documented. This is all time-stamped. It's on photos. It's everywhere. That's the reason why I have the books I have. That's why I have the platform I have. I've never abused my platform. I don't sponsor anybody. I don't endorse anybody. I don't do any kind of crazy shout-outs, anything like that. You don't see me advertising other people's stuff on my pages. You won't see anything like that. It's my name, my face, and it's because I'm just simply doing what veterans are supposed to do. Remember our oath, like President Trump said, and I was given this opportunity by certain people to be in this position. So I can't unknow what I know, and I can't undo what I've been tasked to do, but I wouldn't undo it. It's the thing. And I don't want you to leave, but again, we're going to have order on the pages and platforms, and you got to utilize the platforms correctly because they're here for you. All right, but you're not going to argue with people in the comment box, and you're going to call someone an idiot and all that other stuff. All right, you're not going to do that. All right, and the only reason you hear me say something like that is because you are what? Stupid games equals stupid prizes. You want to act like one? Well, then I'll show you that you look like one. All right, but if you don't want to look like one, then guess what that requires? Dropping your feelings and your emotions and getting with logic. President Donald John Trump could not be doing what he's doing without this right here, without laws and orders. So you might want to learn something that you might have never heard in your life and just sit back a little while and go, you know what? I'm going to go do what this guy says. Go read, study, and try to prove me wrong. I've been here 3 years now. 3 years. But it's because I don't make predictions. I don't have to. I work with President Donald John Trump, and when he puts something out, I show you where it goes with the law and the orders and the visuals of it. So it's up to you to what? Know the glossary, the index, the definitions, etc. Then you got to, once you know those, you can look at the paragraph. Once you know the paragraph, then you can do what? Look at the visual. And then once you have all that, you connect the dots, you're going to see the most biblical, monumental, historical operation known to man. And this was a turning point in the revolution, and it's going to lead to, whenever they are ready to disclose what the world has witnessed, there will be disclosure. The only way that President Trump could be exonerated is by the left. Not by me, not by Republicans, not by conservatives. The only way President Donald John Trump can be exonerated and be on Mount Rushmore, as he's shown you his face on, he's showed you, teased you with that, the only way that he's going to be able to separate himself and remove all this stuff that the liberals accuse him of and all these other things, the only way is there to be a disclosure of what the whole world witnessed, which is this right here. And it's a special operation. So if you love President Trump, you might want to know what he's working with. That makes him unique, different, and separate from all the swamp. And you're watching a revolution that's going to flip it back on the Declaration of Independence in modern day. And we're going to think forward. We're going to move forward. We're going to maintain. We're going to sustain. And you are going to learn laws and orders. Or you're going to learn to sit quiet like a little church mouse, keep your mouth shut, and let the big dogs eat, as the saying is. Because we lead, follow, or get the out of the lane. It's real simple. So I highly suggest all of you out there that claim that you knew CK, that you took photos with him. If you're not military and or you don't know special operations, I highly suggest that you read and study for his sake. All right, because he's still around and they've shown this to you. All right, so you should be excited. You should be happy. You should be gleeful. You should be jumping with joy. You should be praising God in a whole other way once you realize what is taking place. That's all I got to say today.